final passage reads, "On that fated land, a great war shall transpire. Darkness will prevail, and light expire." This world is full of light. It's a world comprised of many smaller worlds, all connected, stretching as far as the eye can see. One great light protects us all. All worlds share one light, one fate. I take it you're talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Yep. In ancient times, people believed that light was a gift from an unseen land. In the name of Kingdom Hearts. But Kingdom Hearts was safeguarded by its counterpart, the Keyblade. Warriors vied for that precious light, thus beginning the Keyblade War. All of this was decided.
You really think you can change the future?
All of this was decided.
The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear. Sounds like your trip around the world opened your eyes, but you got a little bit more than you anticipated. You must have seen a lot of darkness. So you're saying the weak feel the need to justify their actions to maintain a sense of self. You can't let that slide. I suppose letting false light dictate the future might be a pretty lousy move. So, you can make a change. You have that power. What do you want for the world? You believe the world needs you. Sounds like you already know where you're headed. If you truly possess great power, the darkness can't control you.
All of this was decided.
You really think you can change the future?
All of this was decided.
The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear.
All of this was decided.
Why not just sit back and watch it play out?
All of this was decided.
May your heart be your guiding key. Who are you really? Some kind of fortune teller? Well, I could lie, tell you that's what I am, when I'm actually a brilliant artist, even a scholar. I could tell you that I dream of world peace, when I'm actually planning for its destruction. The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear.
All of this was decided.
You really think you can change the future?
All of this was decided.
The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear.
All of this was decided.
Why not just sit back and watch it play out?
All of this was decided.
May your heart be your guiding key. May your heart be your guiding key.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to bring another episode of the Landy Lodge podcast to you all. But before we get into the absolute madness that is Brain, the absolute madness that is Kingdom Hearts, and my amazing, very thought-provoking guest, we got to thank the sages of the Lodge. These beautiful names you see right here. The YouTube channel members, people who donate directly. There's a link in the description if that's to your liking. But as I always say, all I ask is that you're here to hang out. All I ask is that you're here to have a good time. Now, speaking of having a good time, we've got a great guest for you all today. He has not been in the lodge since episode 99, but he makes his triumphant return today. And that is none other than the great Sonny Novus. Sonny, how's it going? Welcome back to the lodge and happy Sunday.
Oh man, I mean, you say lodge, I think you should say Million Dreams Award-winning, critically acclaimed, coziest lodge of all time. But thank you so much for bringing me back. And of course, I want to talk about my boy Brain, absolutely. But If you guys don't know who I am, I'm Sonny Novus. I make Kingdom Hearts stuff on the internet sometimes when I can be bothered. But yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Dude, of course. I sing your praises a lot, so I'll try not to do it too much with you in here. I'll save it for when you're gone. But I do think you're one of the most thought-provoking minds in the Kingdom Hearts community. I think, if you're watching, if you haven't subscribed to Sonny already, you're missing out. I've got his links in the description. Make sure you're following him. You've also had some very fun live streams lately, by the way, man. I've been really enjoying those while I'm at work. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. Nice.
And with that said, look, we're talking about Brain, and there's, we talked a little bit about which rabbit hole we wanted to dive into. Is there any, and with Brain, there's countless of them. So I'm going to put the ball in your court. Where do you want to start? Like, where do you really want to get going?
Man, okay. Well, I mean, like, I think we should start where he started, which is in Union Cross, and I think that that's where a lot of the mystery stems from. And I think that maybe we can dedicate some time to Union Cross specifically and that whole ending, that fiasco,
Yes.
and then maybe Missing Link / Kingdom Hearts 4 / Unreality / everything else. Yeah, yeah.
Two scholars, two brains, who knows, right?
Mm.
I'm sure we'll get into that.
Right.
But, we were talking a little in the pre-roll, kind of the comedy of everyone thought his name might be Blaine, but then it turned out he's Brain. And he's very clearly playing the role of the guy who's in the know. He has the knowledge. His nose is in the book. It's very on the nose with him. But when it comes... I'm tempted to just go right to the Luxu and Brain meeting, but I think maybe we could start with Brain and Ava, because it seemed like Ava had a particular affinity for Brain, similar to how she saw Ephemer. It's almost like, to me, Ava could recognize that Ephemer and Brain particularly were like a cut above the rest. Do you think whatever Ava's role is, do you think it overlaps with what's ever going on with Brain, be it in Missing Link or even in, be it Quadratum?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of, dare I say, missing links between that, that whole thing. But there are definitely some cutscenes that need to be kind of fleshed out. And they did a bunch of stuff with Luxu and the Master of Masters. So I wonder if, the whole fact that Ava isn't there during the ending of Kingdom Hearts 3 suggests that she holds some sort of level of importance above the rest. And it is really strange, we didn't see Scold, for example, in Radiant Garden, whom we all suspected to be Subject X, just plain and simple. But maybe it isn't that simple. And then we have, the whole Xehanort's mum looking like Scold, and that being confirmed to have some sort of connection. What that may be, I don't know. But like with Ava, it's like, there was definitely some intimate moments between her and Ephemer, some very friendly moments, and then with Brain as well. And in an early draft of my video, I didn't put it in the final video for Brain teaser because I just didn't really have enough proof, but it's just a speculation of mine. And it's like, we should assume that Ava read the Book of Prophecies, and the fact that she would give Brain the book and the list, supposedly directly from the Master of Masters as to who the new Union leaders would be. It's interesting that Darkness would know that Ven is the decided, written, chosen one to harbor darkness into the future. So I thought that maybe the old switcheroo that Luxu's referring to in the reports could be Ava switching Ven's name for Brain. And that's just interesting. I don't think that's the case, but I really do think that Ava and Brain discussing like what would happen if events in the book were contradicted over time. And I think conversations like that among characters are kind of gateways for the writers to be like, hey, audience, hello, think about this, keep that in the back of your head, or brain rather. But yeah, definitely Ava's living up to her Fox image and being very mischievous, I think, and she's doing something behind the scenes, maybe that involves Brain too.
Well, speaking of lines that are supposed to tip you off, you bring up Ava and the fox mask. Do you think the whole "you sly fox" in reference to Ericus, should Ericus truly be a descendant of Brain, could that be something tipping us off, or do you think that's just a coincidence?
Right. I think that is. I think that could be a coincidence. There's a lot of. We will get into it definitely because I want to talk about it, but there's some whispers going around in the community that like, if Brain, if Brain is a doppelganger of Luxu, it's interesting how Scold is continuously compared to Ava. We don't know Scold's whereabouts. The two big, candidates for Subject X are either Ava or Scold, because Strelitzia, she's in Kingdom Hearts 4, so it can't be her, right? So it's like, okay, well, in the Station of Awakening for the player in Missing Link, we see Ephema and Scold, and Ephema and Ava had a connection as well. So it's like, could this whole union/data backup thing be totally throwing us off guard? And it's like, well, maybe, like, like maybe Ephema and Scold got together only for Brain and Ava to get together. I'm not saying that's true, but like, it's something that I've been thinking about, especially with like this whole Bloodline thing. And it's like, what if that's the reason? Because the new union leaders mayhaps might have been modeled from the foretellers or something like that, and that's terrifying to me because we don't really see Brain outside of Union Cross. We don't see him before that during back cover times or something like that, and granted we don't see Scold either, but it is very interesting to me that I mean, to answer your question, sorry,
No, you're good,
I
man.
don't think that I don't think Ava. What was like you thought that Ericus was related to Ava
Or
or
that
Scold or
that
something?
Xehanort and the whole trope of "you sly fox" being connected to Ericus could indicate that Ericus is connected to Ava in some way, and that way would be
Right. Okay.
Brain. Let's
Right.
go off what you're saying. Say Ephemera and Scold came together, and Xehanort is a descendant of that bloodline, and now
Yeah.
Brain and Ava get together, and now Ephemera is a descendant of that bloodline, which in a sense would almost make like the Dark Seeker saga a Daybreak Town civil war, or like a Dandelion civil war, without
Yeah.
even realizing it.
Yeah.
And now you've got me thinking crazy thoughts. So I won't put much
Right.
stock in this, but now I'm wondering, like, are all the foretellers and dandelions just copies of each other, or like data backups of each other? Like, was Ava
Right.
modeled after Skuld and vice versa, or maybe like Ira and Lorium, or again, I'm going really off the deep end here. I'm just
Right.
wondering how
Well,
far
hold on for a
some of that
second
could
though.
go.
Yeah, like that already has like a huge implication that Skuld didn't directly travel from Daybreak Town to Radiant Garden,
Mhm.
which means that she stayed behind somehow with Ephema, and we just didn't see it, and that's going to be revealed to us in Missing Link or maybe the future.
Can I give you a
But
prediction on
that
that?
already had where Skuld ended up, or
Where I think she gets sent back in time to Ephemera. That's what I think's going to happen.
okay,
She's going to have this choice somewhere, wherever she ended up. Could be in this Scala. Who knows? Maybe she did end up in Radiant Garden directly. I wouldn't put stock in that. But I think wherever Skuld ended up, I actually think she's going to go back. Like, imagine she was Subject X, and then she gets sent back to Ephemera. Maybe
yeah,
that's something, because Anson the Wise talks about kind of looking into Subject X and seeing something that made him want to burn it all down, run for the hills. And I'm
mm,
wondering if that had something to do with it, because Luxu hid Subject X away. That's my understanding from the secret report. Where else would Luxu want to send her? It's not like he hid her away like in a different closet. That's too simple.
yeah,
He had it's not like where did he send her? It might be a matter of when did he send her. That's what I
right.
think may be going on with Skuld.
Yeah, that could be possible. I think that, I mean, it's like it was so heavily implied that Subject X was Skuld because it's like Lee and Isa are friends with her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what are their themes? It's like the sun and moon. Skuld has a star belt, star earrings. It's like that just makes too much sense.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, if it makes so much sense, then why didn't they just show it in Union Cross? And it's like, maybe it isn't that simple. It isn't that clear cut. And just going back to the whole brain thing for a second, and Ericus, I keep thinking about like Brain with his hat down versus Brain with his hat up, and I've been thinking about that, and I think there are two things going on that we know of at the moment, and it's that Union Cross is an incredibly splintered story, hand fed to us, through incredibly stilted times, and over the years, it's just, you can imagine the amount of writers coming and going, giving their 2 cents, going back, and I imagine Union Cross must have been probably the hardest Kingdom Hearts story to write. And we need to remember that there was a murder mystery going on in the early days of Union Cross, because we didn't know about Ven, we didn't know about Laurium, and it's like, okay, we know Ephemer's innocent, we know Skull's innocent, who are the other Union leaders? Like, oh, Ven. And it's like, okay, well, if Vanitas is within him, I remember the days where people suspected that he had like a split personality thing going on. And then we get Laurium. Hey, we know Laurium, that's Marluxia. He's one of the prime antagonists of a Kingdom Hearts game, so maybe he's the murderer. Again, we didn't know he was related to Strelitzia. And then we get Brain. This, of course, in any fiction, any realm of fiction, if a character has like blocked eyes or like a hat down, they are sussy. They are sussy backers, absolutely. And we just weren't really sure about him. And he kind of had a very interesting attitude back then. He was a little bit more standoffish. He was a little bit more willing to kind of poke fun at Ven or whatever. Like, he wasn't like super nice and endearing like Ephemer was. And then you have the whole thing like where he just prances up to the master's desk and reads the book, and whether that's the Book of Prophecies, who knows. But I think what's going on really is that we were supposed to not have a lot of faith in him because we were wondering who killed Strelitzia. And then once we kind of figured that out, like, hey, Laurium is her brother and he's wondering as well. Brain's actually kind of a nice guy. And then we kind of find out, like, Ven was manipulated by the true darkness. But I think when Brain has that moment where he has that speech where he's like, I'm going to become the virus and overwrite the program that is this world's future. We see his face, and I think, to me, that is supposed to symbolize or hint that, hey, like, that looks like Ericus, kind of. Like, and then we know that Ericus is a blue blood, yada, yada, yada. So that's what I think that is. I think it's heavily implied that Brain is related to Ericus and part of his bloodline. But yeah, absolutely. That's what I want to say about that. Absolutely.
Let's talk about that bloodline for a minute, because I have,
Sure.
again, I'm willing to bet Brain and Ericus are related. However, there's something that I can't get past. So blue bloods are supposed to be like the bloodline of Keyblade wielders, right? Like, that's supposed to be, blue bloods are supposed to be your descendants of Ericus. If I'm not Ericus, isn't. Maybe I got my brain mixed up a little bit. But the way I'm understanding blue blood is like, that's the bloodline connected to the Keyblade's legacy. And that seems to be the dominant idea in Scala ad Kylum. So if Ephemer and Ericus aren't related, and Ericus is like the renowned wielder in Scala, why aren't the blue bloods Ephemer's bloodline? Do you see where I'm kind of getting mixed up there? If like the whole Keyblade legacy is based on Ephemer, he built Scala, there's a statue of him, Xehanort's his descendant, why aren't blue bloods tied to Ephemer? What changes along the way? Maybe it's something with Brain and Missing Link that all of a sudden it's like, oh, no, that bloodline. And that's the thing, blue bloods are a thing before Brain even gets there. Like, it seems like he shows up and that system's already in place. This is just where I keep getting tangled up. I'm more than happy to put Ericus and Brain in the same bloodline, but I just don't understand how they got the blue blood and Ephemer and the Xehanort bloodline didn't. That's where I'm getting confused.
Look, man, I think we need to kind of leave no stone unturned. Look, we gotta just bring it out there. Scold is just a cheater. She just two-timing. She was just, got with Ephema, then later down the line got with Brain. But no, I think that the Blue Blood legacy, I think, relates to more just from that era of Keyblade wielders. So like either the Union leaders or the foretellers. So if you're related to them, then technically you're a Blue Blood, I guess. But it is very interesting to me, and I've thought about this a lot, how there is a parallel between Xehanort and Ericus and Ephema and Brain. And it's interesting to me how Brain is the one who bestows Ephema Master's Defender. And it's like, okay, it's interesting how Ephema's descendant now gets no name. That's interesting. So could there be like a cross thing going on where maybe down the line a certain someone bestows Brain no name? And that's what I'm thinking of. And if you don't know what I'm alluding to, I did a stream about this. We see a hooded figure in Missing Link. I think it could be like the true Brain. If there's a whole data backup thing going on, that would be crazy. It could be young Xehanort time traveling to a point where he exists as a baby to meet his mother. So that's why he has the no name and the black coat. That makes sense too. But what if it's Ephema with no name? And the whole Luxu report thing, when he says, I gave my Keyblade to one of the 5 Union leaders, maybe he found Ephema among the wreckage and the rubble and gave it to him instead and just sent Brain to the future with the remaining pod, like without a Keyblade. So, I mean, I'm not saying that that's likely, but I don't really see a lot of people thinking about that. And I think like that whole parallel, like back in time, you gave me this Keyblade, I'm going to give you this Keyblade now. And then like it brings a whole, like a full, yeah, exactly, right? It just full circle. But I'm not 100% subscribed to that theory. Again, if it's not in a video of mine, then I'm not like 100% on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's just a thought.
Don't worry, Sonny. They're used to me coming up with thoughts that I abandoned 10 minutes later. So don't no one's gonna hold you to it. No one's gonna hold you to it. But that's interesting because there's a lot of behind the curtain play going on here. I think that's what we're recognizing is that, hey, something's going on behind the curtain that we, the audience, have just not been let in on yet. And it has something to do with these bloodlines, something to do with Blue Blood. Where did Skull go? What is Brain up to? And, his choice of words, right? And this is something I kind of wanted to get into. Being the virus in the master system. So viruses are supposed to spread and like repopulate. So the idea is that maybe there would be more than just one Brain, right? Like that Brain would be this virus that would continually replicate. Maybe it doesn't always look like Brain, but just, again, it's a virus like everything else is self-preserving. I guess what I want to get into is the imposter brain theory. I think that's where I'm trying to go with this. The idea that there are these 2 brains. Where do you subscribe on that? Do you find that to be likely? Because I find it likely in the absence of a better explanation.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Honestly, it's like every rabbit hole you go down, it's either like, oh, Brain traveled back in time using Xehanort's method, and thus like there are 2 versions of him by proxy, right? And it's like, okay, well, there are data backups. There are 2 versions of him by proxy. And every single avenue you go down, it's like, okay, well, if the true Brain got sent in the future and Luxu possessed his body, there are now 2 brains by proxy, right? By technicality or whatever. And it's like, I mean, right off the bat, people who have watched my video and know me know that I heavily disencourage people to think that Luxu possessed Brain. I think it's just unlikely with the evidence that we have. And I just think that the more I debate or just see people's takes online, the more I've come to the conclusion that there are 2 camps. You're either in the camp which holds Luxu's reports to the degree of like imperative information that we should cherish, or you're more willing to disregard them and be like, they're just reports, who cares, they can be retconned or whatever. Personally, for me, I think that Kingdom Hearts 3 was too big to make that kerfuffle. I think that is I think that's a piece of the puzzle that people are willingly ignoring when Luxu says, I bequeathed my Keyblade to one of the 5 Union leaders. And it's like, that to me, that sentence alone, like forget the entire report segment, but just that sentence alone is like, well, he didn't possess someone, right? And at that point, he cared about the Union leaders. He cared about the Dandelions. He was always stressing about their fate, always, with the Master of Masters there as well. And like the Master's like, "Oh, okay, I guess you can check up on them, but don't do anything silly." And Lucia's like, okay, fine. So, and we know that that's not the case. He definitely has his fingers in a lot of pies. But yeah, I think that no matter where you look, the possibility that Brain, the whole virus speech, knowing that there are data backups in Daybreak Town, and I kind of want to speak about the fate of Data Daybreak Town as well, because I think that leads directly into Missing Link as well.
Okay, go for it.
Because like, yeah, so it's like a lot of people, especially in my comment section, are like, but Sonny, Luxu said that this world isn't like other worlds. If it falls to darkness, that's it. And you're 100% right. That is true. However, it does not fall to darkness. It gets abandoned. There's a big difference. There are no darknesses left to corrupt that world, okay? The only true darkness left is in the real world with Luxu, and that's the last time we see them, right? The remaining 4 are locked in the cable tunnel, so they are completely out of the picture, right? And that already has like implications of unreality and blah blah blah. And you have like the main 7 who are already trapped within the foretellers, Luxu and the Master of Masters, as evident with Odin's conversation with Vidar in Dark Road. So it's like by process of elimination, it's like if the real Daybreak Town didn't fall to the realm of darkness and was just destroyed and remained in the realm of light, then who's to say that Data Daybreak Town didn't follow suit and just remained destroyed in the datascape? And it's like, what was Brain's sworn duty, right? His sworn duty was to awaken the Dandelions trapped within the data world. And it's like, how can they get out without a pod? Could they have founded their own society? And then there's like a converging timeline thing where it's like we have the real reality, and then we have like this whole video game scape, this data kind of, they don't even know that they're in a simulation. And it's like Missing Link. It's like, why does it look so different from Scarlet Kylum despite having better technology? It's more industrialized. They have earpieces. There's an entire society going on. They are exploring this thing called the astral plane, and it's like, okay, well, where's Greece? like where's Italy? Like where's this, this bright, vibrant, daylight themed Scarlet Kylum? And it's like, that's interesting. There's like, time doesn't really make sense, and I think a lot of people agree with me that like there's something going on there, definitely. And I think I'm not suggesting that like Missing Link has to be like Unreality's version of Scala per se, but I definitely think that something happens where boom, there's a reality convergence going on, and that's what happens to Brain, right? And it's like, okay, something's going on here. Where are all the Keyblade wielders? Why are all these buildings made, all these islands, all everything like that, but nobody's there to inhabit them? And it's like, okay, that's weird. Why was Xehanort the only one to get away? Why was he so important? And it's like the whole Child of Destiny, blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, something happened back in those days. And I think that the whole Missing Link thing is, to my understanding, a play on the link between reality and unreality. That's what I think. But,
okay, so let me try to put this in layman's terms for dimwits like me.
Yeah, okay.
What you're saying is Brain, along with perhaps some other collaborators, be it Ava or any of the other Dandelions, maybe even Luxu, right, using the vacant Data Daybreak Town, use that as, let's say, a stem to grow Unreality out of, so that Unreality came from the abandoned Daybreak Town, Data Daybreak Town.
Can I just say something real quick?
Yes.
Just like a heads up. Just 2 quick things, and then you can go off. But for one, we need to remember that darkness can shapeshift as well, and Ava can shapeshift.
Yes.
So maybe they could be masquerading as a brain, or masquerading as a darkness, or masquerading as Luxu, or blah blah blah. So there's that to think about. But also in the reports, a lot of keen-eyed players would find that Luxu doesn't describe Data Daybreak Town as just the datascape. He specifically describes it as another world line where no Keyblade War happened, and that's giving it like a level of importance, and just introducing the idea of data backups, ramming that into our skulls, I think is incredibly telling. So definitely it wouldn't surprise me at all if Missing Link had some sort of correlation to Data Daybreak Town, the whole GPS function mirroring the real world. And like the latest trailer has like this glitchy text effect whenever it makes a transition. But yeah, just stuff to think about. It's just very interesting. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was more just reiterating your point that maybe this is where Unreality came from. And now I want to posit, maybe Unreality is serving as the virus in the master system. Because now I'm starting to wonder, if Unreality is a consequence of all of that, then who's to say that Brain didn't set that up as a trap? That because this is where I go back and forth with Brain, is like, okay, who's one step ahead of the other? Is the master one step ahead of Brain, or is Brain one step ahead of the master? And I ask that question because the master never really talks about Brain. He doesn't seem to really have Brain on his radar, but Brain is like locked on to the master.
Yeah.
And if Brain has read the Book of Prophecies and he knows how the Book of Prophecies works, we know Missing Link to be this unwritten era. We'll see how literal a meaning that is. It makes me wonder if actually Unreality is just Brain's trap for the master. Because again, the master says it when he's talking to True Darkness, it's a world beyond what he could conceive. That like even the master was surprised at Unreality's existence. So that tells me, he didn't make that world, but he's rolling with it. Yeah. But if that world was a consequence of Brain's actions, then maybe he set it up literally as a pivotal part of his plan. Because it's a world, it's like an entire world not in the Book of Prophecies. So there's an entire history in Unreality the master doesn't know about.
It's partly one of the reasons why I initially assumed that Ava switched Ven's name for Brain, which is why the Master of Masters doesn't really know about the Missing Link era, doesn't really speak or know about Brain. And it's like, that's interesting. So maybe like when the Master of Masters gave Ava the list, Ava was actually the one to forge it, which was like her last ditch or die attempt to fail the master's plan. But what's interesting to me is that with the Master of Masters conversation with Darkness, he says that he could see something interesting in the future, a world he couldn't even conceive. That to me implies that No Name to some degree has to exist in Unreality for him to see it. So it's like if Brain is Luxu's apprentice, has No Name, and if he is in Unreality, then maybe that was the whole fuck up. Like Luxu was like, okay, hey, we're gonna like, let's think of a plan to throw off the Master of Masters, because I don't agree with it. I think he's an insane lunatic, and let's do this thing. And then that's maybe why the Master of Masters knows before even Luxu does anything that he's the traitor, because like he was conspiring with someone that he shouldn't have been,
Yeah, it would be a dead giveaway. At that point, the master would know. And again, as he says, like he expects this of Luxu. Shout out to Master of Masters with a $2 super chat. Says, can someone show me when Ava shapeshifts? Which looks like Vitrin is on the case. It's not the finale of Union Cross, but it's not that far from it because it's post Keyblade War, isn't it?
She does it a couple times. She masquerades as Era as well. I can't name all the times she does it, but she definitely does it more than once. And of course, we know that Darkness transforms into Ava as well to throw off Ven when Ven is manipulated by the true darkness. So yeah, there's that to think about. So maybe like the real Luxu wasn't there the entire time. You know, it's like
Yeah.
that's crazy. It's like, what if Luxu cut a deal with darkness and said, "Hey, do you want to act like me for a second and go to this kid in the basement and do that whole thing?" It's like, there's like honestly, it's crazy because like there is something going on, and the big thing is, why do we see Brain in the Badlands with the box and the blade exactly like Luxu from back cover, and I'll get into that. Yet why do we see him in a completely new era in the future? Yet he has these memories that all the other union leaders don't have. He still has his memories. He fondly recalls his friendship with Ephema, and it's like, that's so interesting. And he's the one who has the hat as his medium, as we suspect. But yeah, it's crazy to me that how Brain still retains his memories, and the whole back cover parallel to that whole Union Cross ending. And back cover happened at least 5 years before Union Cross, and it implies that if it is the same cutscene, then that must be Luxu, and that means that Luxu has Brain's face. I don't like to think about it. It scares me. It keeps me awake at night.
But that would be
I don't know how.
That would be perfect though, honestly, because then he really is the virus. He infiltrated the Master's entire hierarchy.
Right.
You know?
I don't have the chat in front of me. It's just Discord. So apologies if people have said this before, but I do hear talk of like, what if Brain in the Badlands in Union Cross isn't actually just after Union Cross, is actually post Missing Link, and
Somebody
that's how he ends up.
This, yeah.
Right. And that's how he ends up, and he travels back in time. I think that causes a paradox. I think that Luxu needs to bequeath No Name to Brain. And that already says, like, okay, there's two brains, right? There's one that gets No Name, and there's one that doesn't get No Name. So it's like, no matter what avenue you go down, it's like there has to be two brains. There has to be. And shout outs to the Secret Reports, Mel, who is definitely dying on this hill. Absolutely.
She's been on that case
completely
for
apparent.
years. She's been on that case for years.
Well, it's like, obviously they've inspired me for so long, and they are honestly one of the reasons why Sonny Novus exists in the capacity that it does. But I love theory videos, and even if they don't turn out right, it's not so much how credible they are, it's the amount of effort and thought and logic that gets put into it, because that's the difference between a theory and a speculation. Anyone can speculate that Demyx is the Master of Masters, but like no one has anything to go off of other than they're both goofy, right? Despite the fact that they're different heights, they have different coat designs, different voices. It's like, it doesn't really make sense at the end of the day. It's like, if Demyx is the Master of Masters, I just want to do, like, I have to. If Demyx is the Master of Masters, right? The whole reason why the eye exists in the Keyblade is because the Master isn't there to see it. So if Demyx is the Master of Masters, what's the point, right? So there's that.
Gee, you could say that about Sora too. Don't get that's the one that gets under my skin. I don't know why. Maybe I'll be wrong about it. But the idea that the Master of Masters is Sora, and Sora is now this manipulative sociopath, just it just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work for me. Now, if he steals Sora's body at some point, like, sure, we could work with that. Yeah. Like, maybe Sora is this,
even though Sora is 5'1" and the Master of Masters like 6'6", but yeah.
But maybe Sora is this ultimate vessel that he's building. Maybe that's part of his plan. But again, I don't see either one of them. I don't see either one of them being that.
I mean, that's like the difference between like a theory and a speculation. A theory has great things and research and sources to back it up, and I think that's what Mel did great with Brain as an imposter. And it's like, knowing that darkness can shapeshift, knowing that Ava can shapeshift, knowing that Ava's conspicuously out of the picture for whatever reason. We don't really know what happens between the real Keyblade War and then like the later stages of Union Cross. We don't really, it's very, very muddy as to what's happening truly outside in the real world. But like, no matter how you look at it, there are incredible inconsistencies in Brain's character from the beginning of Union Cross to the end of Union Cross. And sure, you could chalk that up to writing, right? Like maybe they had a clear, concise plan early on, and it didn't really work out that way. Maybe Nomura changed his mind, or maybe like different writers came and went. As I said like earlier, like sharing their 2 cents, having that splintered delivery over the course of years and years and years. Key, Unchained Realm, like there's a lot of like plot threads that need joining together. So maybe that's just the case of that, but definitely it's like Brain when Daybreak Town starts glitching. He's like, so it's already begun, and it's like, how do you know that, kid?
Yep.
Who you been talking to? Like, what's going on there?
What books you been reading, buddy?
Yeah, surely not the prophecy, right?
But you know, but
like, if he did read the Book of Prophecies, how would he not realize where he ends up in Missing Link? So it's like weird,
muddy to say the least. But it's, you know, the thing that strikes me about the whole Luxu and Brain paradigm. Obviously, there's something going on there, right? With Luxu, I almost feel like he's becoming this demon that makes Faustian deals. Are you familiar with the term? Like a Faustian deal?
Yeah.
You make a deal with the devil in exchange for a piece of your soul, just to put it lightly. Yeah. And I almost feel like that's what Luxu is, right? Brain got to keep his memories, right? When he transported to the future, unlike the other Dandelions, he got to keep his memories. I believe he made some kind of trade-off with Luxu. And I don't even think it's in the sense of like, they're a team now. I don't think it's they're a team. I think it's, I need you, you need me, let's make a deal. I'm not sure they're on the same team. I think something similar could be said for Ava. You know, you talk about, you know, the Ava and Brain clash, which clearly didn't end in either one of them being subdued because they both appear in a future scene after their clash. So Ava and Luxu fought, and we don't know how that fight ends. But I'm telling you, they walked away with some kind of agreement where Luxu's like, you don't believe me? Look in the book. Or you don't believe, like, I don't know, something happened between the two of them. And I think whatever happened between Ava and Luxu, it trickles down to Brain. It's very possible the deal that Luxu and Brain struck could have been Ava's idea. Where Ava's like, okay, Luxu, you're going to find Brain. He's one of my guys. Go to him. Like, all I'm saying is there's this giant gaping hole in the Union Cross narrative of what happened after Ava and Brain's clash.
Yeah. And that's the magic of the black coat, because we see someone in the datascape walking with Data Strelitzia, and it's like, okay, well, you can assume that that's Luxu, and I still personally believe it's Luxu, but I'm open to other interpretations. But for now, I'm just going to say that it's Luxu, and that he has the ability to use a, you know, what do they call it? A dark hallway or whatever?
Corridor.
Well, not like a dark corridor. Yeah. But like a corridor, like we've seen that whole like blue thing in Union Cross where foretellers get around. So I think he can use that to come and go between the data and the real versions of Daybreak Town. So it's like, okay, the traitor, based on Ghula's lost page, is the one who tolls the bell for the war. And it's like, that's why for years people thought it was Ava. And for me, Ava's still incredibly sussy, right? But like, it's like that clash rang the bell, right? And it's like, okay, they stopped fighting, and Ava was still fighting fit for the Keyblade War, and her temperament was very, it was, she was different, and I think that she was enlightened to a certain truth. And then it's like, okay, you get the whole Strelitzia Fandango, what's happening there? And then you get the whole darkness thing, and it's like, then you're the only one standing in my way as you are in mine. And it's like, oh, well, turns out Luxu's actually completely fine, despite the fact that he already, you know, as we suspect, has an ancient darkness already entrapped within him. So it's like, okay, so did he cut a deal with darkness too? and then
I
it
think
comes
he's
to
making
Brain.
deals, Sonny. I think Luxu's out here making deals. Deals with Ava, deals with Brain, deals with Dark. I think he's making deals. And he's going to collect those debts one day.
The whole the Faustian deal with the devil thing is coming full circle. I really think, and like there is a slight difference in Lucius's character between Union Cross and back cover. In back cover, he's just a kid. He's a naive kid. He's kind of deer in headlights, so to speak. And maybe he's just like a teacher's pet. Like maybe he's just putting on that facade in front of the Master of Masters. But with Darkness, we definitely see that cocky side come out, and it's not so much the as if kind of thing, but like he's slowly getting there. And I think over time, Luxu gets incredibly jaded and bitter, and his heart just succumbs under the weight of time itself. And I think that's what leads to Luxu today. And it's great that he still kept that screw the Master of Masters mentality. In my opinion, I think he's definitely against him for sure. For sure. I just think it.
I think so too. I think that's exciting too. I think that's the most exciting outcome. The idea, because I like it when it's not as simple as like you have the good guys there and the bad guys there. I like it when it's like you have all these different camps sort of competing for their own justified reasons. Like you could have your Luxu camp here, your Master of Masters camp there, your Guardians of Light camp there, Yozora and the Verum Rex camp here. You could have all these different, and what camps team up with others, who knows? But you could have all, Maleficent and Pete are another example. Another one like in contention. And I kind of like the idea of that. By the way, big shout out to Will's Word, who's gifted us 20 memberships. 20. Okay, Will. Okay, Will. Okay. Thank you, buddy. That is remarkable. Will be back in the lodge soon enough. You guys can look forward to that. Thank you, Will. That kind of threw me for a loop. But
yeah.
Brain Evolution. Brain Evolution. I just, they're an interesting bunch. Because I think all three of them have their eyes on the Master. But I can't imagine all three of them. I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I can't imagine all three of them actually being on the same team. You know what I mean? I can imagine Ava and Brain, sure. And one thing I like about you, Sonny, is you point out the importance of the chosen words in a lot of the dialogue. Like when the word decided is used, that's usually in reference to something in the Book of Prophecies. What I find interesting about the secret cutscene at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 is Luxu's choice of words. Ava had her own mission and she carried it out. Unlike him going, I had a role to play and after all these years is done. Roll. Luxu, what was your role? But when he says Ava, not Ava had her own role and she completed it as the Master said. No, Ava had her own mission and she carried it out. To me, I think that means she abandoned ship somewhere. She backs out of the Master's plan, has her own mission and thing now. And the question is, does that happen at the end of her battle with Luxu? Or does this happen somewhere else down the line?
Right, and that already implies that Luxu knows, right? So he's like looking around, and he's like, oh, I guess Ava didn't make it after all. So to a certain extent, he was already kind of on the fence as to whether she'd return or not. But he knows that Ava had her own mission and she carried it out. So I think that definitely harkens back to the deal that they cut back in the Union Cross. And it's like, damn, Luxu has a great memory. Like honestly, that's fantastic. Good on him. So it's like, yeah, Luxu definitely has to be cutting some sort of deal with at least a few characters. And yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I never gave a lot of thought to the idea that Luxu's base appearance could be the same as Brain's. And we talked about that a little bit.
I don't like it.
So do you not like it because it scares you, or do you just not like that as a story decision?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that it would imply a lot, okay? And I think it's a step too far. And the reason why I say that, I think one of the reasons, is if Ericus is a descendant of Brain, then by proxy he has Luxu blood. And okay, well, if Brain is a fake version of Luxu or whatever, then what's Ericus then? Is he like a data baby? Like that doesn't, I don't like that at all.
Fair.
So it's like, it does imply a little bit too much for me. But what I cannot shake is the fact that a lot of back cover cutscenes with the Master of Masters, like Case of whatever, they are reproduced for Union Cross verbatim. Every word is still intact. So why is that one phrase, may your heart be your guiding key, versus may my heart be my guiding key, different, despite the structure and the composition of that scene being 1, 2, 1, the movement, the look at the Keyblade, he turns around. The only thing is that back cover cuts off and Union Cross continues and he just takes off his hood and it's Brain. And it's like, it leads us to believe, and of course there are no Keyblades around, suggesting that it was before the Keyblade War, but you can say that it's just a different part of the graveyard or whatever. Like, you know, with Ven as well, like Ven, there's no Keyblades around for him, so it could just be in that same part. But at the same time, it's like, why would they compose it one for one, shot for shot, beat for beat, much like the whole Yozora Noctis thing, right? It's like, you know, it really is on that level, and it's like, okay, but why is that one phrase different? And it's like, could it be like a red herring? Could it be like, oh, they want us to think that it's the same scene, but really it's Brain at a different time and it's more symbolic?
Maybe it has something to do like with the literal heart in his body. Maybe there's almost like a wink and a nod that like something's up with the heart, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how much further to take that or what direction to take it in, but
right. So
you know, you raise a good point that like that's a pretty deliberate change. And to me, it's like, maybe if someone were to say, may your heart be your guiding key to them, they're under the impression that that heart and body match. But if he says, may my heart be my guiding key, it might be an indication that the body and the heart don't match. That like, don't let the body fool you. I'm following a heart of somebody else. Or like, the heart in here is not the same heart as the body. That is the only thing I could really pull out of that right now. Maybe there's more to be sought after, but maybe there's something going on with the heart that's inside that body that them putting the my on it adds a little something extra.
Yeah. I mean, like, there are a few, you know, mistakes in Union Cross. There are like a couple here and there, but for me, it's a little bit too easy to make that mistake. And I think that like, it's just one line. So I totally think that there is something going on there.
Sonny?
But you seemed like you want to...
I think Will's word in the chat might have cracked something. So you got a left brain and a right brain, right? Left brain is logical and clever. Yeah. The brain we know.
Yeah.
But right brain is more like impulsive and lustful, and with Luxu's name translating to lust, might be alluding to that. I don't know.
They're coming for me. Oh.
The genius police are after you, Sonny.
Yeah, I know. It's the Nomura cops. They're coming. No.
We leaked the plot. But I don't know. They're being very on the nose with the idea of a brain. Maybe it is left brain, right brain. Before we knew I'll say this, before we knew more about Brain, what I thought this was headed towards was that you had this character named Brain, and maybe he becomes this stand-in for everything that is logic and knowledge, the logos, things like that. And then you have the Master of Masters. So here you have Brain. Maybe the Master of Masters represents heart or soul. And then maybe there's a third character. And maybe it turns into these three factions of like heart versus brain versus soul. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing. Third Eye hit us with a super chat that says, I actually have a theory about Brain. Luxu thinks Braig's body resembles an older Brain, especially before losing an eyeball. We're being contentious, thinking there's only two brains. Imagine a brain army. So I guess Third Eye, I think what you're getting at is that every vessel that Luxu adds to his pile becomes part of that brain army. Is that what you're getting at? feel free to clarify further. I'll throw us some follow-ups, Third Eye. I'm afraid I'm not fully understanding you. I don't want to...
That terrifies me.
Yeah, I don't want to misrepresent your idea there. But I'm pretty sold on the two brains thing. I'm pretty sold on him making deals with other characters. Let's maybe move to this. How certain are you, or what is your speculation or theory about him currently being in Quadratum? Like, you boot up Kingdom Hearts 4 and maybe he's there. Because this is my thing. Strelitzia seems to know who Sora is. Someone had to tell her. Strelitzia isn't just going to see Sora appear and be like, I know him, I know them, I have to take care of them. There's somebody feeding Strelitzia information. You know, knee-jerk reaction, I go to Master of Masters because he's been shown in Unreality. But I caution to feel that way. I feel like there's more than just Strelitzia in Quadratum. I feel like it could be Ava. I feel like it could be Brain. So, I don't know. Where do you fall on that?
That's a great segue. Fantastic question. I do want to say that, like, the whole doppelganger thing going on, like, Luxu would have to go into the basement knowing that there's a kid that looks exactly like him. So there's already that implication as well. But yeah, definitely with Unreality, there is a prevailing take that I've seen online a lot, especially since Union Cross's finale, that the box has something to play into this. And a lot of people say, like, okay, well, I think one of the most common theories is that, like, Luxu took Brain's body and sent his heart into the future, where it was reformed with his hat as a medium. And I break this down in my Brain teaser video, right? But I've always been of the belief that A, you need to do it with a pod, and B, there needs to be something physical manifest within the pod for it to trigger. That's what I believe. Because if that weren't the case, then why would he take Strelitzia's data and not just the heart itself? So I think that you need to place that thing in the pod for it to trigger. So I'm going to play devil's advocate and just say, like, maybe Luxu was like, hey, kid, look, I know it sounds bad. Give me your body just for a second. I'm just going to take it just for a second. You'll get it back. Don't worry. Just trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. Right? It's just a prank, bro. Prank on the Master of Masters. But you'll get it back. Here, I'm going to take your heart and use your hat as the medium, place both within the pod so it can trigger, go to the future. That's why he has the Keyblade, the box and stuff like that, and doesn't have the hat as he's in the Keyblade graveyard. That's the only way I can see that happening. But it's like, okay, well, that will imply that when Luxu ditches a body, it just poofs, and he can have that ability to do that. And I think it is just a step too far for me. And I think that a bigger implication is that, yeah, there are two brains, whether it's a data backup, whether it's the same brain but from different periods of time, you know, I don't know. But I think that by proxy and by implication would mean that there are two different brains concurrently, right? But in terms of Unreality, I want to make light of a conversation in Dark Road between Ericus and Boulder, and it's the only hint as to what happened to Ericus's grandfather. And they say, you know, oh yeah, your grandfather, he's gone, right? And Ericus is like, we don't really know what happened to him. All that we know is that he battled darkness. And it's like, well, you know, he certainly battled darkness in Union Cross, but maybe something happens in Missing Link where something happens there, right? So not only are they deconfirming the fact that he's dead, which I don't believe, I just don't think it's that simple.
He's not dead, no way.
But something weird happened to him, and I want to attempt to blow your mind for a little second, right?
Okay.
And it's a tiny thing. You can call me dumb if you want to, but there's this big heartless that we all know and love. It's called Darkside, and we first become introduced to Darkside in Kingdom Hearts 1, and he comes from Sora's shadow, and you can see, like, the design of Darkside has that whole spiffy hair thing going on. It's like, one can assume that Darkseid used Sora's design as a template for its own design. And then you see the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer, right? And then it's like, okay, well, the Master of Masters said, oh, it's a world where light and darkness have no sway. That's not the case anymore, because there's obviously darkness there. So something went wrong, maybe a missing link or something, I don't know. Maybe someone opened the cable tunnel and the darkness has got out and blah, blah, blah. Who knows, right? But we know that darkness is there. Something's going on in Quadratum, right? But then you look at that big dark side, and I think a lot of people would say, like, it's more like dark side than anything. And it's like, you know, like you have Shadow and Neo Shadow. I like to call it like a Neo dark side, where it's like a big, like mega dark side. And it's interesting because if we look at that Neo dark side's hair, it has the same fringe as Ericus / Brain. And it's like, okay, well, if we go on the notion that the original dark side was using Sora as a template, again going back to Recoded with Sora's heartless being manifest as a dark side, could it be that something pretty bad happened to Brain and that could be connected to him, and we see someone in a black coat with the Master of Masters? People say that it might be Luxu or Zigbar or whatever, and it's like, that's, you know, it's natural because there aren't too many people with a black coat anymore, right? So there's, you know, I mean, there's Demix, but okay, whatever. I'm not gonna get into it, but yeah, there's something going on definitely, and the fact that they don't confirm that Brain perished, more so that he's gone or that he disappeared or we don't really know what happened to him, and it's like, well, you know, there's an entire era, you know, there's an entire lost, unwritten span of time that we need to consider, and it's like, well, you know, who knows? And the whole astral plane versus the Unchained Realm, whether they're connected, you know, Ephema traveling to Sora in Kingdom Hearts 3 to save him, the light of the past, and it's like, okay, well, maybe Ephema has some sort of time transcending ability like the Master of Masters in that regard as well, and maybe Brain as well. It's like, it's a very, very old take, but I remember it, and people were assuming that Brain is Yozora, and I'm like, that's crazy.
I remember that.
There's nothing, there's nothing I can add to it because I don't really know like anything about Yozora, other than like a soul-centered video that I want to focus on later in the year, and it's going to be like my first video with the Master of Masters, except with Yozora, and discussing, like, we have the heart, we have the body, the mind, and we're going into the soul, right? And that whole phrase in Kingdom Hearts 4 where it's like, the heart resides within the soul, which in turn is guided by fate to its rightful place. The wild card, blah, blah, you know, it's like a whole thing, right? So, yeah, definitely Brain is going to be big. Yeah, for sure. And whether he's in reality in one piece or not, I don't know. But I definitely think something's happening.
And I think what's interesting, right, is that Darkseid appearing as a consequence of Sora's arrival. But Sora's not the first Keyblade wielder to show up. Because I've seen a lot of people say, and maybe it has something to do with the Kingdom Key itself, but I've seen a lot of people say, like, oh, but the Heartless are attracted to Keyblades. It's like, okay, but the Master's there, Strelitzia is there, and whoever's under that hood, I'd give them a 50-50 shot of having a Keyblade. So it has to be something particularly with Sora, and interestingly enough, I feel like what you brought up with Brain could plug into that. However, I feel like that's something we'll have answered at the end of Missing Link. Because like you're saying, I think however Missing Link ends, the consequence is going to have something to do with Unreality, or else why call it a Missing Link? Why call it, you know, like that? Yeah. So Third Eye did clarify what they meant earlier. They're more implying that Luxu is still in Brain's body as Braig. Now, I don't know if I'm down with Braig being Brain's body grown up, but I like the thought exercise. And this is where I'll extend my olive branch to you, Third Eye. I like the thought exercise that Zigbar isn't Luxu. Maybe Zigbar is Brain. Because if you watch that final cutscene, and I'm not saying I buy into this, but I think it's interesting to think about. he never confirms he's Luxu. He never really confirms it. These days they call me Zigbar. Yeah, but whatever suits you. Doesn't say like, yeah, it's me, guys. Like, no, he just gives, he's very, 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 how would you say? Very ambiguous with his choice of words throughout that whole scene.
Dismissive, I think.
Dismissive too. Like, Luxu, is that you? Oh, I haven't heard that name in a long time. He's not saying he's Luxu. He's not saying it. He's just kind of dancing around it. Oh, I haven't heard that name in a long time. Is that you, Luxu? These days they call me Zigbar, but you know, you want to call me Luxu, go ahead. Do whatever suits you, right? So sometimes I think about that because I'm like, well, yeah, that kind of computes with being a virus. What better way to be a virus and infiltrate the master system than to literally take the place of the apprentice, who so much of the plan is banking on? I'm not saying I buy into it, but if it were true, it does answer a few questions. However, it doesn't explain. The problem with that theory that I've seen is doesn't explain where Luxu is after that. It's like, okay, if Zigbar is brain, then where's Luxu? What's Luxu doing? And to me, it would sort of invalidate that scene between Luxord and Luxu at the start of Remind, which is like the scene. That's like the scene. I think, how do you feel since we're going down this road? Some people think Luxord might be brain. I've seen that theory thrown around. Where do you sit with that?
So that would imply that Brain is British, and I hate that. So to go back to the whole like Zigbar is actually Brain instead, it's like it's a fun thought experiment, and it's like, yeah, Luxu was certainly the closest to the Master of Masters. They shared a bunch of interactions where the Master of Masters, you know, delved into his childhood and his trauma, and we know that Luxu is in on the entire scheme of like the whole trapping the darknesses within them, right? And the thing is, as you said with the whole Luxord Zigbar interaction, it also completely undermines the thematic weight of the Kingdom Hearts 3 epilogue and that whole revelation that Zigbar is Luxu. Wow. It's one of the greatest scenes in Kingdom Hearts history. And then for them to backpedal and be like, actually, no, it's Brain, actually. So
gotcha.
Oh, well. It's like, no.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I just don't believe that's how a twist is done. I'm not going to say that I am Nomura and I know exactly that he's not, but like, it's not, for me, again, as you said, it's like, where's Luxu? And it's like, Luxu has his own plans and his own schemes, and it's not like he's gonna like, just abandon his own life and just like cut deals with a bunch of people and then just go sit in a hut for 80 years. It's like, no, we do know that in order for the Master of Masters to time travel, there needs to be a medium, which is the eye, and a person with memories of him, which is Luxu. And it's like a lot of these people, like these key kids, they know of the Master of Masters, but they don't have any meaningful interactions with him to kind of gauge that a waypoint kind of placeholder, because like that also brings into question, okay, well, what constitutes as a memory? Can you just see someone walking down the street and that's enough for them to be your waypoint? It's like, that's very icky to me, and it's very loose.
If I were to make a guess, thematically, I think what would qualify as a memory, like, I want to make sure I word this correctly. If you are someone who, okay, I'm gonna backpedal a little.
I'd assume you'd have to like speak to them a couple times.
I'm trying to get to that,
have some sort of connection, right?
I'm trying to get to that connection, that idea, like, again, that Jesus, I don't know why I can't get it out, but it's like the way that when Sora sees the heart in someone, they become real, sort of that idea. If you have that memory that is like a connection, that makes the memory real, right? Like seeing someone walk on the street, that's fleeting. That's not, you don't remember them because there was nothing about them to remember. They're just walking. But the memory of like sitting around in the master's chambers talking about what the hell you're going to do, that could qualify. I don't know. I just think maybe
Yeah.
thematically a memory is qualified by that.
Like, could you watch a video of someone, like they're not even there? Could you watch like a video, like a data apparition of the Master of Masters talking to Ava, and that constitutes as a memory? It's like that's too loose. I think Luxu is way too important for that. Luxu is that A to Z type maneuver for the Master of Masters. Like, he has to exist. He could only meet Xehanort at that time because Bragi was there. That, for sure, absolutely. And it's like, you know, I haven't got the chat open in front of me. I've just got Discord, as I said. So I'm just going to say this. I assume at least one person has said that maybe like a nobody thing is going on. Like a brain is like it's actually brain's nobody.
I've not
I don't
seen that.
think
I've
so.
got to say, I've not seen that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think so, solely because unfortunately it's really sad for me to say, I just think we're done with nobodies right now. I think we're going to still get like Dusks and you know, the whole enemy faction, but I just don't think nobodies are going to be a big imperative part of the story. I think it's going to be more so with like dreams and data and stuff like that. But yeah, but what were we talking about?
You know, just brain, Ava, Luxu,
Oh yeah,
the whole
that
thing, you know,
fucking kid. Ugh.
the whole ordeal. Third Eye, again, with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Third Eye. Says, my theory only works if Luxu is a fragment of the Master of Masters, or through all these calculated events, becomes the Master of Masters. If that's not true, I'm on the left and right brain. Yeah, you know, I've thought about that too sometimes, is like, what if Luxu himself is again like a fragment of the Master, and like everything that's happening to him is like he's becoming the Master? I've thought of that too. It's to me, it falls under speculation. I don't think there's anything to concretely conclude anything close to that. It would be fun. I think that could make for a fun subplot, but I don't know.
Right.
However, I wanted to go on what you were saying, how the Luxu serves as the Master's way to get into the future. What if we try to apply that same logic for how he gets to Quadratum? Because then maybe that offers a hint as to who is in Quadratum. Because maybe Luxu is his A to Z for reality, but maybe Ava is his A to Z in unreality. Maybe he set somebody up in unreality so that he could travel between those two worlds. Because he used Luxu almost as sort of like a time... Used Luxu in the Book of Prophecies as like a time... How would you put it? A time staple. But having access to all those moments in time and the no-name Keyblade doesn't grant you access to unreality. Yet he still got over there. So there has to be someone there with memories of him. Now, could it be Ava? Could it be young Xehanort? Could be. But like you're saying,
Alicia.
I caution to think it's Brain just because we've never seen an interaction between the two. So I don't think Brain technically has any memories of him.
Of Luxu?
Of the Master. Because they don't really have any sort of
right, okay, cool.
line of communication.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder if the Master has somebody in unreality serving the same purpose as Luxu. Because how else could
Well, I
he get
mean,
there?
like, well, Strelitzia, right? So he sent Strelitzia there, and Strelitzia could have been his you know, waypoint. And we
know
don't
if she
really
has
know,
memories
like,
of him though. Like that's where I'm going on your idea of
well,
what
yeah, I
qualifies
mean,
as a
like,
memory. And that's
yeah.
why I'm like,
So
maybe it's Ava, maybe it's young Xehanort.
Yeah.
And maybe that's
So I've
why he
always
wanted to
kind
meet
of-
young Xehanort. Maybe that's the whole point of the whole young Xehanort scene, was to set him up in that way. So it's like, okay, since now he
scapegoat.
has these memories of me, he's going to go over there. Now I've got access.
Right. Yeah, and that brings into question, like, in my latest video, I'm of the belief that Strelitzia's real heart found its way to Laurium, which gives credence to Marluxia's final form in Chain of Memories, with the whole like spiritual kind of Lady of Death thing going on. And it's like, okay, well, if Luxu accessed Strelitzia's data, then that would mean that's data Strelitzia talking to Sora and not the real one. And it's like, that's interesting. And yeah, sure, Strelitzia got struck down, but she has a Chirithy, right? So shouldn't she have free reign over whether she reincarnates or turns into a Dream Eater or whatever? And it's like, that gives more credence in the true dandelion being Strelitzia, because like she's appearing in the distant future to Sora. But we don't know what interactions Data, Strelitzia, and Luxu had. It's like, okay, that's interesting. So there's so much mystery surrounding Luxu, which is, again, I think that's the ultimate crux in trying to figure out what's going on with Brain, because in order to figure out what's going on with Brain, we have to dive into Luxu. And obviously, this is like a Brain discussion podcast, so we don't really know that much about Luxu. And I think we've already, as a community, really just dug deep into Luxu. But I do want to point out why I definitely do think that Luxu is against the Master of Masters, at least now, is that the entire phrase coined by the Master of Masters, "May your heart be your guiding key." Most characters say it nowadays, but even though Luxu slash Zigbar does say it, it's either in secrecy or it's kind of like, yeah, may your heart be your guiding key, to just kind of like rekindling that. But in Dream Drop Distance, there's this scene where Sora plummets down in the world that never was onto a skyscraper, and Zigbar's just there waiting for him, right? And Xemnas comes and they have that whole spiel about like nobody's actually having hearts and stuff like that. And Sora turns around and he looks at Zigbar and he's like, "But you, aren't you afraid of turning into someone else?" And he's like, "I'm already half Xehanort," and that whole thing of like, you treat people's hearts like they're bottles on a shelf. But during that scene, Zigbar says the exact antithesis of "May your heart be your guiding key." And he says, "Aren't hearts great? Steer us wrong every time." And it's like, that to me is so indicative of Zigbar's and Luxu's kind of nihilistic, morally ambiguous mindset of like, yeah, humans are just these expendable tools, these vessels to me. I don't really care anymore. I just want to see this man fall, ultimately, at the end of the day. And it's like he has this whole, almost like this traumatic apparition of
He's like
Sora with his
offended.
friends around him.
He's like
Yeah,
offended. Like, no, you've lost.
yeah,
What is this?
yeah. And I think there are very few, because I'm working on a Luxu video that's coming out sometime this year. I go into like, there are only a few moments in the entire series where we see the real Luxu come out, and it's usually accompanied by a shot to his eye. It's like the whole recoded. Is it the recoded secret ending where he's with young Xehanort?
I believe that's at the end of Coded.
Right. Yeah. It's in the yeah.
Man, that
So
Xehanort scares me like no one's business.
yeah, and young Xehanort's like, with the passing of time, as you can imagine, right? As you can imagine, that's like,
He
you know
knows.
about passing time, don't you?
He
Right?
knows.
And then like there's a shot to Luxu's eye,
Yes.
right? And then like in Birth by Sleep, when Braig meets Ven for the first time, he's like, with Aqua cradling him. Like, there's a lot of these hints, these little like peeks into Luxu's true self. And it's like the whole "me, I am already half Xehanort," boom, zoom into his eye. And I think that there are a few times in the series where Luxu is genuinely scared. And I think to a certain extent, Sora at that moment genuinely scared him, because this is an eldritch being that's been alive for thousands of years, and here's this kid saying, "No, you're wrong. I have the hearts to prove it." And it's like, oh, so this kid can maybe like, foil the Master of Masters after all. And then you have the whole, I I have this whole thing where I just like go off track and like go down these rabbit holes, right?
You're in the right place for it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right, yeah, exactly. But we've talked about Union Cross, we've talked about Missing Link as well, and we can talk about more on that as well. But also with Dark Road, which is really interesting, is Odin. Odin, he's a character who has Master's Defender, but he also summons No Name from the wall. So it's like, okay, so he has possession of both, which means that someone can be in possession of both Keyblades. And it's like, we see Odin manifest this chain-like ability.
Similar to Xehanort.
And we see that, similar to Xehanort and exactly the same as Sora in the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer. And it's like, we know that Master Xehanort bestowed the Keyblade to Sora, kind of passing the torch, and it's like maybe he still have this kind of unkindled power within him. And you know, there's this whole thing about the Child of Destiny or whatever. Like how far that goes, I'm not too sure, because there are so many different rabbit holes you can go down for that. But yeah, absolutely. I think that Luxu kind of in Olympus in Kingdom Hearts 3, he's like, your reward is just around the corner.
Gives the whole
And it's
plot
like,
away.
what reward?
Gives the whole plot
Yeah.
away.
And it's like, did Luxu know that he would get the reward being the Keyblade? It's like, It's like, that's interesting. And he knew, like, you already messed up once, guys. You know, we can't have you blundering yourselves toward a second failure. I'll have you know,
No,
we failed in style, Chief. Yeah, so it's like, he knows. So, like, yeah, that's insane to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and it almost makes me wonder, right? Like, first of all, I think he has a... It makes me wonder if he also knows the plot of Kingdom Hearts 4. Because he said he doesn't stop at just Sora getting his reward. He goes, I don't admire one guy leaping into danger if somebody else needs to leap in after him. Which is exactly what Riku has just done, by the way. And maybe I'm putting too much into it. I think there's a Luxu Riku rematch coming. Or else, why even bother saying, if I had a Keyblade, it'd be different.
Okay.
Though you take the first scene he appears in, which is Olympus, what you brought in, him kind of giving away what's going to happen to Sora, how Riku's going to dive in after him, and then it ends with him almost like taunting them. Like, good job, guys, but if you had to face the real me, forget about it. And I almost feel like when he prophesizes this pattern of someone leaping into danger, someone leaping in after him, Kingdom Hearts 4 might end with Sora getting out of trouble, but now Riku will be in trouble. And I have a feeling that might have something to do with Luxu. Just because if you line those two things up.
What's insane to me is that there is a year gap between Kingdom Hearts 3 and Melody of Memory. And it's like, okay, apparently they've been searching all known realms. Yeah, they've been searching everywhere for Sora, any hint, any trace. There's no Maleficent, no Pete, no Laurium, no Elrena, no Foretellers, no Zigbar, and it's like they're pretty sneaky, I guess, or maybe something happened and they're somewhere else or whatever. But or maybe like they just don't want us to think too hard about it and they'll just like announce it at a later time. But to me, like it begs the question, like, is Luxu still in reality or has he made the leap to unreality? And it's interesting that you say that Luxu would be itching for a rematch between Riku, because I've always thought that he'd want to get payback to what Terra did to him. And
That's right.
I've always thought that, like, you know, Terra is obviously an Anakin Skywalker, you know, stand-in, you know, with Mark
archetypically speaking,
yeah, exactly. So I think that it would really bring it home if, like, now that Zigbar has a Keyblade and he's all powerful in his final form, and we know how powerful he is with that little hint, that little thing with Bragi, you know, it would be cool if they had that rematch and it was actually Zigbar scarring Terra's eye,
and
then,
that
like,
that Terra's the one-eyed
master,
samurai.
you're not very what's the word? Yeah.
Yes, I would love that. I would love that.
That would be cool.
Because we need these characters to be a little damaged. We need to be a little damaged. They all look very clean coming out of the Dark Seeker saga.
True darkness is still within Ventus. Like, and he's going into the realm of darkness. It's like, oh, great, that's fun. But like, this is kind of, it's interesting how this is a brain discussion, and naturally, just completely naturally, we've transitioned into Luxu, and I think that's a dead giveaway as to how connected those two characters are, because you can't really talk about the fate of Brain and what he's doing where he is without really talking about Luxu a little bit, because the master heavily implies that Luxu trains a worthy apprentice, and then passes down his keyblade. So to me, that suggests that Brain kind of stayed with Luxu at least for a little bit in order to kind of qualify as that apprentice. And it's why I'm kind of against the idea that Luxu just ditched his box with Brain, like his first apprentice. I think Luxu knew about the box whereabouts for a little while and was actually surprised during the events of the final Keyblade War when he couldn't find it. And it's like, oh crap. And like maybe someone else brought the box somewhere else, you know, maybe Brain did bring the box, but I don't think that like, you know, I think that's a very Luxu. I think the box is more heavily connected to Luxu than it is to Brain. And the reason why is because the Master of Masters doesn't say to Luxu, give this box away, right? He's like, you know, like just pass the Keyblade down. So I think something else is going on there with the box. But with Brain, yeah,
What was
it's
Luxu
kind
doing,
of a shame.
by the way? I just want to ask, what, because Luxord never got to the bottom of it.
Right.
What was the intention of Luxu sending people out on a, like, talking about it so much? Like, he didn't shut up about it. Even Larxene is like, that stupid box that Zigbar's convinced is real. Yeah. Like, you would think something so delicate he'd want to play close to the chest, but he seemed pretty hell-bent on, like, letting everyone know about this box. Oh, it contains hope. You know what I mean? He wasn't exactly keeping it a secret. Which is weird to me, because it seemed like the box was, like, to be this best-kept secret for as long as possible, but it just seemed like in Kingdom Hearts 3, Luxu wanted everyone to know about it. He's even watching Maleficent and Pete look for it and isn't going, hey, you know what? I could probably kill them in 2 seconds, but I want them to keep looking for it. That's where I'm like, what's going on there? Well, what purpose does that serve?
Well, the only thing we know about the box right now is that A, Luxu reacts to it with like surprise, like, but why? So it must be something really weird and off kilter. Pete is under the impression that the box with the Book of Prophecies, like they are together. So maybe the Book of Prophecies is inside the box or something.
Well, I have a little theory on that. I'll get to that when you finish.
Sure. And Zigbar to Luxord says, and I'm not calling him Luxord, I don't care. I'm vehemently against that. So Zigbar to Luxord is like it contains secrets that all Keyblade wielders know, and Luxord has this this kind of, I think it's a Japanese proverb of the white goat and the black goat, the whole stashing away a letter. That could be a stand-in for the Master of Masters and Luxu. It could be Luxu to Brain. I'm not sure. But for me, that whole rivalry between Zigbar and Luxord and them giving new meaning to Luxord's character, especially with his connection to Yozora maybe, is that if he's already questioning Zigbar's identity, yet Zigbar is questioning his, then absolutely I am on the camp that Luxord could be a body hopper for sure. Whether he's Brain, I'm not sure. I think it's too much. And the similarities between Luxord and Brain, like they're both intelligent, but Brain has nothing to do with cards and the game. Right, yeah, it's just very, very different. So I think that Brain is far too important and unique of a character to just be Luxord. I think he's separately somewhere else, but Luxord definitely is going to be interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't like it either, personally. I like it's a cool visual, the idea that like Brain and Luxu clashed again at the start of Remind. Like visually, that's a cool idea. But like you're saying, it would rob Brain of a lot of agency, you know, to kind of just lump him in as Luxord, and then it would just completely rob Luxord of any character. You know, now he ceases to be a character. He was a mirage that Brain was perpetuating. But I will say,
also, if Brain is if Luxord is British and Luxord is Brain, then by proxy Brain is British. I don't like that. Which also means that Ericus isn't like Japanese. He's like he's from the UK. So I'm like I don't like that. I just don't like it. I'm sorry. I don't like it.
You have a grudge against your motherland, Sonny. You seem to be averting anything and anything British in this series.
Yeah, I mean, like every time I just look at Gothic Scarlet, I just get flashbacks. You know, I'm just afraid just to go out at night. So foggy, so cold. You know, it's like God. I mean, nah. It's just weird because like you know, in all reality, I just think Brain just being this English kid just doesn't sit well with me. I don't know why. Even though I've had people say like I should voice Brain, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm
You
good.
just don't
I
want that to
love
be
him
a
to death. He's-
self-fulfilling prophecy.
yeah. Yeah, no. But yeah, like I'm just being facetious really, but like I just think Luxord is far too unique of a character, and I think Brain is far too unique of a character for them to be conflated. Maybe I've heard tell that Luxord is Sigurd, but again, speculation, not a theory. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm down for the body hopping. I just don't want too much of it. Like they absolutely nailed it with Luxu and Zigbar. Like how do I put it? You can't do the same trick twice. You know what I mean? Like Kingdom Hearts 4 can't end with "Is that you, Brain?" and then Luxord's like, "Oh, I haven't heard that name in a long while." Like you can't do the same thing twice. You know, so
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'll say this because I'm curious your thoughts of this. I think it's possible that Volume 2 of the Book of Prophecies is in the box. That's what I think. Because then it would suit
Volume 2.
Volume
Sequels?
2. Volume 2, because the first volume only tells up until the end of the Keyblade War. And Maleficent, and seems pretty confident, she outright says the Book of Prophecies is in the box. She mentions it in Coded that she's looking for it. She mentions outright in Olympus, like, it doesn't exist. Why doesn't it exist? Because Sora hasn't made that tear in time yet. Sora hasn't changed fate yet. So Volume 2 doesn't exist because we're still on Volume 1. It only exists after the Keyblade War because that's what births the new sequence of events. Now, that would explain why it's hope. That would explain why it's knowledge necessary for all Keyblade wielders. That would explain why it couldn't exist until after the Keyblade War, like Maleficent said. And it would explain why Zigbar could never open it. Because if he opened it beforehand, there'd be nothing in it. I don't know. It's just, sometimes I wonder if things are more simple than we realize. And like, some characters have outright said what's in the box, and we are choosing not to listen to them. Which is okay, because a lot of the times these characters don't have the correct knowledge. But between Maleficent and Pete, and I mean, they're the only real ones to really outright say it. But then again, I don't really know. I don't know. It's something that makes sense to me. I'm not sure I buy it, but it seems simpler than we think. Like maybe it's really not that crazy a deal. And then Zigbar says, "I hope you like long stories." And it goes right to the box. As if a long story is in there. I don't know. There's just a few things that make me go, huh.
Right. Well, I think whatever's in the box has to be very important. I mean, we can always equate it to just building suspense, but for me, Luxu's reaction is way too animated for it to just be as simple as just a box. I haven't really made a box video, and I haven't really spoken about my thoughts on the box, purely because I think it's something directly tied to mechanics that have yet to be introduced to us. I think it's more to do with the new saga than anything. So I think it's not really possible to know exactly what's in the box right now. But what I will say is I've always been of the firm belief that it is a direct parallel to Pandora's box.
Absolutely.
And that harkens back to Hope being in the box. And with Pandora's box,
and Pete
all of
up
the evils of the
box.
world. Yeah, exactly, right. And all of the evils of the world, and we can equate that to the ancient darknesses, are within the box, but all that's left is hope, right? After they've been freed, all that's left is hope. So it's like maybe they're going to play on that. But now that's all I have with the box.
Now imagine there's nothing in the box. No hope.
I'd end my channel. I'd quit. I'd write a cease and desist to Nomura personally, and I'd say like, you can't infiltrate my emotional state like that. So you know,
what if something with the box had something to do with player, and that the box became almost like this very meta idea where all the players being us, our attention is on the box. Our attention is on the box. But then maybe the box actually has something to do with us. Not us as individuals, but us as players. Because let's be honest, the whole player thing is more meta than anything Kingdom Hearts has ever gotten into. And they've danced on the lines of meta, but literally just being like player and reinvigorate, not just making him your playable character. He's Xehanort's caretaker. Like, we've gone further with this, where it's not like, oh, we're going to let you make your own character, but that character is going to be relatively inconsequential to the plot. You're just one of the wielders. It's like, no. You're one of the wielders. You were pivotal in the Keyblade War, and you're being reincarnated into Missing Link, which will inevitably end in you fostering the future villain. So it's like, there's something going on with player here, and this is Kingdom Hearts. We're not going to be player twice. We're going to be player 3 times. So sometimes I wonder if player in any way is tied to that box.
Right. There's definitely another prevailing theory that the player reincarnates a third time into Sora. I haven't really thought about it that much, because that's one of the things where I kind of want it to, no pun intended, play out for itself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things where it's interesting to me that the player died not in Daybreak Town, but the cable tunnel, right? Which is already confirmed as not being connected to our world. So there's already a stark connection to Unreality there, yet he was reincarnated in Gothic Scala. And it's like, that's interesting. Like, where's Ephemus statue in modern Scala? Like, surely it should be upkept and, just to quote my video, stand the test of time, being an imperative landmark, right? So it's like, something might have happened. Like, if it is the same Scarlet Kylum, then where's Ephemus statue? And you can't tell me that, like, oh, it's just somewhere else, we haven't seen it yet. It's like, Remind, we explored that main island in grave detail, and we see in the Missing Link trailer that the statue, the fountain, is very, very close to the main tower of Scarlet Kylum. So it's like, either something happened to that statue specifically, or they just aren't the same Scalas, right? And what was your question? Like what was?
Oh, no, I didn't have a question. I was just musing about the black box.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I've heard tell that maybe Unreality is in the black box, and that's like a cheat gateway to the other side. But what's really weird is that with Subject X just going on that, we know a man with an eye patch took her away, and
imagine it's Odin.
Oh man, it's like yeah, actually Zexion just kind of felt frisky that day and just wore an eye patch. She was cosplaying as a pirate. But no, like it is pretty obviously Zigbar, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me how they have this conversation outside the Twilight Town mansion, and we know that the Twilight Town mansion has a datascape hidden in the basement. Right? So it's like, okay, to me the whole player thing really rubs me wrong, being the guardian to Xehanort rather than like Xehanort himself, because like the whole thing, like, player when he reincarnates, he's like, looks like I'm going on another journey. Xehanort's name is another with an X in it. It's like, okay, well, Apprentice Xehanort is heavily implied to have built the pod in Radiant Garden. How could he know how to do that without having memories or like overlapping heart shit going on with, Union Cross? And it's like, there's so much juiciness going into Xehanort being the player, and the fact that they like made it not that is always going to be bothering to me. But speaking about Missing Link and the player, what's weird to me is that if it is our player, right? If it is our reincarnation of the player, then why is he so old in the Union Cross finale? So that to me says that whatever happens in Missing Link to us as a kid, right, means that Missing Link as an era has to kind of persist, right? So whatever the climax of that game is, whoever the final boss is or whatever, the world itself still needs to be intact until the player reaches like 80 plus for him to be this, or them, I guess, to be this decrepit old person, which means that Xehanort isn't born yet. So I was always under the impression that Xehanort, as a baby, was in the same time frame as Brain arriving, but maybe not, unless that isn't our player, and our player is already an old man elsewhere in the town. And I just kind of want to. I've got some notes here,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
Sure.
How dare you bring notes
just
onto
in
my
short-
show, Sonny? How dare you?
Oh no, being prepared. Just to summarize it, early in December, like during the iPhone beta test for Missing Link, there was a focus group event in this place called the Artnia Cafe in Japan with Nomura and some producers and some art directors and stuff like that. And during that interview, they said a bunch of interesting things. One thing that we need to keep note of is that Missing Link isn't written by Nomura, or wasn't initially written by Nomura. It was written by someone called Riko Fukuzawa. Riko Fukuzawa,
The
who
FF14
is the
writer, I
writer.
think.
Yes,
Yeah.
writes Final Fantasy 14, but Nomura took over midway through the process, right? And there was something very interesting about Freya as well, because everybody thought that, oh, could it be like, gray hair? Maybe she's related to Xehanort, Kyrie's grandmother, whatever. Maybe she's an Ephema descendant because of the grey hair, the red, kind of like curly a little bit. And Nomura went out of his way to say, no, you guys, I know what you're thinking. You are thinking on the wrong track. She is not connected to Freya, however, which is something that no one else caught, right? No one else caught this. But Freya is designed after a certain cat. And they say there's a big secret about...
I was gonna say, I wouldn't say no one caught that, because I watched your stream where you spiraled. I was worried about you. I was worried about you.
Can I defend myself?
Yes, please do.
Right. Okay, so my initial reactions can be a little bit crazy. Like, I don't know if Freya is literally Chirithy incarnate, to the point where people in Missing Link are just embodiments of Chirithy, meaning that the real Brain stayed behind, and it's not the real Brain in Missing Link, it's actually Brain's Chirithy. I'm not going to go into it. You can watch that stream. It's on my live section on my channel. I just have a mental breakdown, obviously. I've calmed down a bit. I've taken my hypothetical meds. I'm okay now, right? But I will say that a lot of people were like, oh, like maybe Freya isn't based off of Chirithy, but just Nomura's cat, because we see Nomura's cat in the artwork of Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't think so, and the reason why is because Nomura did not design Freya. Nomura didn't design Freya, it was Yamashita. So Nomura didn't design that character, and he isn't the only character designer for Missing Link. So it's like, for me, when they go out of their way to say there's a big secret about Freya, but they wonder if they should share it here, that to me suggests that there's something going on under the scenes, or behind the scenes. But there's also this weird thing where like they spoke about Nomura's hoodie, and it's just an evil cat, and it's like Nightmare Chirithy, like Nightmare Chirithy, like Nightmare Chirithy said to player that like, I'll see you in another dream, and it's like, and Chirithy's a dream eaters, blah blah blah, and it's like, are we like, is Missing Link like not even a real place? Unreality, it's like, is it just like a dreamscape? And that connects to Yozora with the power of sleep and that whole thing, right? And it's just like, could that be where they're going? And it's like, this is gonna sound so crazy and so stupid. I don't believe it. Don't believe me. Just tell me to shut up, right? But I look at the player's design, right, and the hat has two ears like outlined, but like, don't listen to me, like. I still think it's heavily implied that is the reincarnation of player. Don't get me wrong, right? I'm not that crazy. But it's weird that like the whole thing connecting the old version of player that takes care of Xehanort and our player in Union Cross is the fact that the default designs are very like teal themed, but there is no teal theme in the Missing Link player, right? In the kid with the hat. And then you look at the Station of Awakening, and usually a Station of Awakening has you on it, right? If it's your Station of Awakening. Who do we see on the Station of Awakening? We see Ephema, we see Scold, and we see Chirithy.
I'm pulling it up right now.
We see Chirithy. So it's like, what if the big twist is that these are all like the dreams of the... Yeah. I'm not... Look, I'm sorry. I know I'm dumb. I'm sorry. I know I'm going crazy. I don't... That's what I initially thought. I've calmed down now. I'm not, I'm not going to do anything preposterous, But I definitely do think we're going to see Nightmare Chirithy at least. If Freya is connected to Chirithy for some reason, why? Why is she connected to Chirithy? And why did they go out of their way in multiple translations, not just Google Translate or whatever, but like credible sources on KH13 and stuff like that. They say that like they were commenting about like there's a big secret about Freya, but they're wondering if they can show it here. So it's like her just being referenced to Chirithy isn't a big secret. So what's the big secret then? So she's not an Ephema descendant. They go out of their way to deconfirm that. So they're already on our cases. They are on our cases, absolutely. And it's like, yeah. Do you have any thoughts about that? I don't know.
So
I don't know what the chat's doing. They're like
chat's
unsubscribing from
Chat's losing it. Chat's losing it in a good way. They're having fun.
Okay. Okay.
So it's like I could get into that somehow. Freya, it's like it's weird saying Freya is Chirithy. That just doesn't sound right to me. But it's like
no.
What if like, okay, so let's go to Dream Eaters and Nightmares for a minute here. The way I'm understanding Dream Eaters and Nightmares off the top of my head, the Dream Eaters are not literally the Keyblade wielders from Union Cross. The Dream Eaters are the Chirithys standing in to defend the hearts of the wielders from Union Cross. That's my understanding.
So they're like melded together.
Correct.
Right? Like it's like the heart of the Keyblade wielder with the Chirithy. They create this new Dream Eater. So what about the other side? What about people that choose not to become Dream Eaters and instead reincarnate? What then happens to the Chirithy? It's like, okay, that's... Are you going to tell me that there's a society of Chirithy humans running around? It's like, no. Shut up, Sonny Novus. I'm unsubscribing right now. And that's perfectly fine. It's just a funny thing to think about. But like, absolutely, like my main takeaway is that Dark Chirithy, in my opinion, people have, like who do we think the final boss of Missing Link is going to be? People, sorry. On that topic, I really want to harken back to your stage time at Reconnect, which was really interesting. So you did a podcast episode with, I believe, Damo, Aqua, Carly, and Bioroxis, I believe?
Nailed it.
Right. So you asked them a very interesting question about Sigurd, and you're like, is he friend or foe? And it was a very, very split. There was a lot of contention. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we see like he's very purple themed. He has yellow accents as well. It's like, those are colors associated with ambiguity. And it's like, is Sigurd like a part of this high society that's intentionally withholding information from the real world, from the real Scarlet Kylum, from the fact that like, maybe he knows about Unreality or something like that. But I have no idea what Sigurd is. I have no idea. I mean, there's no real way to figure out, but it is kind of ominous that he is the deciphered narrator for the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer. And he's like, if you don't like this world, just go to another one. Just escape this world for another. And it's like, what does he know?
Right.
And he's very, very ominous. He's very evil, ominously sounding right there. But personally, I think Dark Chirithy is gonna be a hoot and a holler. I think Dark Chirithy, I can't wait. If we don't get Dark Chirithy, I'm gonna throw my phone into the River Thames and just never play Kingdom Hearts ever again. So
no, I'm with you, and I'm actually curious what is it about Dark Chirithy that calls to you? Because what I think they have a unique opportunity with here is, look, Kingdom Hearts has never actually like scared me. It's never made me feel uneasy in the way, say, a Majora's Mask is able to. Just to throw an idea out there. What I like so much about Dark Chirithy is you have the ability to capture, like, based Sonny Novus. There it is.
That's it, yeah. That's it.
Love it. But I think Dark Chirithy has some Majora energy to him. In the sense that, like, think about, like, the Chucky doll movies. Like, you have this little stuffed doll, but it's got the most evil intentions. And, like, that could be actually kind of scary. That could be fucking, that could be uneasy at the least to witness. Like, this little stuffed bear, but it wants to murder you. It wants you to die. It wants the darkest outcome imaginable for you and everyone you love.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of with you. I'm like,
I
hope they do this.
Yeah. My personal headcanon for Dark Chirithy is that he has like a really super deep voice. I don't know why, it's just really funny to me. But what's interesting is that in back cover, the Master of Masters is like, but beware. If the wielder is overcome by malice, or rather tainted by darkness, and there's a whole contention between malice and darkness, whatever, you're going to have an army of nightmares on your side, so beware, right? So that's why I made that second video of mine about nightmares, because I think that the whole realm of dreams, right, the dreamscape and nightmares and spirits, and it's going to be so crazy, and I think that that's going to be a huge part of Unreality and just the new saga as a whole. And I think that why is Dark Chirithy only connected to player? Suspected, you know, I have no idea, but like why is there only one Dark Chirithy, and why is it connected to player if we're all collecting Lux and stuff like that? So like, where's the whole like Dark Chirithy thing going on?
Well, somebody in the chat, Isabel Stoker, pointed out that Dark Chirithy's color scheme.
Oh yeah, Isabel, nice. How are you doing?
Yeah. She points out that Dark Chirithy's color scheme and Sigurd's match. So maybe Dark Chirithy and Sigurd could be kind of like one and the same.
Yeah.
Because they both got the purple crazy. Going on.
I guess like my heart tells me that like if the player is connected to that Dark Chirithy, and if like they reincarnate, you know, that's the only character I can think of that has two Chirithys, like a regular one and a dark one, and it's so peculiar because we've never seen anything like that. And then there's this ominous quote from Dark Chirithy when it dies, and it's like, I'll see you in another dream, and it's like, that's not like another lifetime, that's another dream. And it's like, okay, well, we know that we are reincarnated in Missing Link, so what is the Missing Link era? What is it? Like, is it real? I don't know. But for sure, like, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about the whole thing, like Nomura's hoodie being like this like purple evil cat, like just go look it up. It's pretty funny.
I'm gonna look it up.
Cool. I think it's on my Twitter somewhere. It's not too far.
It's on your, all right, that'll probably make it easier for me. Is it actually a picture of Nomura in an evil cat hoodie?
No, it's just a picture of an evil cat hoodie, and like I might have it here. Hold on. Nope, I don't. I deleted it. Darn. Okay.
Seeing lots.
It's on my Twitter somewhere. I promise.
I'm on the scroll.
Yeah. So it must have been somewhere at like early December.
That's where we're at. Okay, I found a tweet with you talking about
why comment?
Cat.
Right.
Oh, here we go. I found it.
Yeah.
Wait. What?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
So they went out of their way to comment on Nomura's hoodie and the attire for that focus group event, that interview, and it's like, dude, if that's not Dark Chirithy, like a teaser for Dark Chirithy, I don't know what is. People forget about Dark Chirithy. People, no pun intended, are sleeping on Dark Chirithy. I think that Dark Chirithy is going to be the gateway to absolute hell. I really do.
I am kind of bugging about this. Let me give some people context. This is news to me. So it comes from a tweet that says, Missing Link event bonus information. Mr. Nomura's outfit today was the top Milk Boy Evil Cat hoodie with a dark cat print on the entire surface, the word evil on the back, 3/4 length black pants, and black boots. Yeah, I love this man so much. So much.
And what color's the cat, Landy? What
Purple.
color's the cat?
Like very purple and blue hues.
Yeah.
You know, it's very lodge colored. It's very lodge colored. I like it. I want this hoodie now. Is it for sale?
It's pretty good, isn't it?
It's a pretty damn good hoodie.
Kind of a banger. Yeah.
Dude, that is so... That, you know... Now I'm bugging.
Anyway, Brain. Brain is great. Yeah, Brain. I love Brain. Yeah, it's great.
Listen, what... I mean, you see, once we get past 1 hour, it's just...
Yeah.
Goes
Guys,
everywhere.
we spoke about this like before we started stream. Like we knew we were gonna go off track, so it's completely fine.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, but it's so natural. Like it's so crazy and great to realize that naturally, just by talking about Brain, you can come to conclusions about Luxu or Luxord or Sigurd or just the Missing Link era, and it's like that's so. It's like, what are they doing? Like, what are they planning for that character? Like, I don't think he's dead. I'll just say that. I don't think he's just sitting there dead. But yeah, it's really really crazy to me.
I think he's the next big chess player. That's what I think, and I mean that more symbolically.
For sure.
How you had like Xehanort and Ericus. I think you might have Brain Luxu or Brain Nightmare Chirithy Sigurd, whoever it's got to be. But I wonder.
I mean, damn, even before I started my channel, I was on this like fever train of like who is the Master of Masters, right? Because that was my first video, and I was like, is it like an old version of Ven? Is it Brain? Is it Luxu from a different time? Is it a different version of Sora? Is it like I just went down this whole rabbit hole, and it's like every turn it's like Brain is like the key to everything. And I want to point out, speaking about keys, that there's a very peculiar scene in the first Missing Link trailer, and it's before we see anything about the Scarlet Kylum stuff. It's like the beginning of it, where it's like the boom boom clap stuff. We see like this text where it's like connecting the two timelines, between Union Cross and modern times, and they show like a bunch of stuff with Xehanort, and they rewind to a shot of Riku, young Riku, looking at the door to darkness. And it's a scene in Kingdom Hearts 1 that is completely cut off. We don't really know what happens in that cave with Riku and that door to darkness. And it's like, okay, well, we know that Riku is the intended wielder of Kingdom Key. And there was a comment, I mentioned it in my stream, but where I, have a fit over Chirithy. They made a comment about Kingdom Key and how Kingdom Key may or may not make an appearance in Missing Link, and I'm like, what are you teasing here? Are we gonna really get like the Riku origin story and how important Riku is? And it's like, that to me is crazy, and I think a lot of people forget about that. Like, why would they use a shot of young Riku, specifically that shot? They could have used any shot, right? Because the intent is to kind of gauge the time gap, right? So they could like just show like Sora on the beach or whatever. But they intentionally showed Kid Riku in the cave looking at the door. And it's like, that's so weird. That is so weird. So maybe we're going to get some Kingdom Key / Riku stuff.
It makes me wonder. It makes me think of Destiny Islands a little bit. Because for me, I still haven't wrapped my head entirely around like, how does Scala know about Destiny Islands and that would be a safe harbor? Where do they learn about that? And going into what you're saying with Riku, it's like, okay, did someone set Riku up for this? Did somebody make sure Riku would be on Destiny Islands in the same way they did Xehanort? Is that just like whoever's pulling strings behind the curtain? If they think someone has a shot at being a child of Destiny, do they just throw them on Destiny Islands and see how it turns out? Because Xehanort wasn't born there, and who's to say Riku was? You know, maybe Destiny Islands is like the Los Angeles of Kingdom Hearts, where everyone living there isn't from there. Like everyone just moved there or gets sent there. I don't know. But you are bringing up a good point. It's very peculiar that in that one shot that you would show young Riku most of all. And it's like, what are you implying there? What are you implying there? That the legacy of were they trying to breed Xehanort into a kingdom key wielding vessel or something? Was that the goal for Xehanort? Like, he's going to be the kingdom key wielder. What else is a child of destiny? And then you consider, okay, maybe Riku was supposed to be that child of destiny and have the kingdom key, and now Sora has it. And I've seen some people say, oh, maybe Sora's the false light, and Yozora looking like Riku and being referred to as true king is an homage to the idea that, like, across destiny, there is this, a child of destiny that's supposed to be the, like, in the sense that Sora may have usurped Riku. Like, that was supposed to be Riku's thing. But then it comes to, like, well, was Riku destined to fail? Or is there something else at play here? Maybe something from Brain and being a virus. Is there something at play that Riku was set up for failure? Maybe sending Kairi to Destiny Islands, which awakened his curiosity to be like, wait, you're from outside of here? I want to be outside of here. What is outside of here? And that curiosity and wanting to leave home, in a sense, symbolically summon the darkness. And Riku has to grip with this. You see it a lot in 358 over 2 days. Like, oh, you thought you were too good for your home. It wasn't the darkness that destroyed your home. It was you. Like, you're right where it's like, you know, we kind of are missing a bit of a Riku origin story here. Like, we can't just accept, like, yeah, he was supposed to be the Kingdom Key guy, but now he's not. I don't think we're supposed to just let that go.
Yeah, so, I mean, to start, we don't know who Riku's parents are. We know about Sora's parents, so we know about his mum, obviously, is very infamous. But we also know about his dad, because Riku makes a comment that my friend's dad, I think he's talking to Terra, right? He's like, oh, my friend's dad gives us a ride here on his boat. So Sora has his parents, and that's fine. And I think I really like that. Like, he's just a regular kid, just an island boy. And we don't know about Kairi's parents. I'm of the firm belief that Kairi's grandmother is not related to her by blood. I think she is a guardian, much like with Xehanort and his guardian. So I think Kairi is way more... I've in my Discord, we've kind of theorized about this, but I personally think Kairi is more connected to the Master of Masters than anyone. I think that it is possible that Kairi, as a true princess, and this arbiter of light, who has a nobody who doesn't pertain to any of the rules for any other nobodies, right? Naminé is such a unique being that maybe Kairi could be connected to the Master of Masters. But just to go back to Riku for a second, Riku as a character, like speaking about Naminé, Riku doesn't pertain to any of the rules of any other character. He doesn't have a nobody, right? He doesn't have a heartless, okay? He turns into Ansem. Okay, good for you. It's cool, I guess. Like, and like, he can trap darkness within his heart. Like Riku and Sora have this connection, this keyblade, this special keyblade that we've seen in Dream Drop Distance and in Kingdom Hearts 3, that people of course refer to as the gay blade. That's fantastic. But
makes me wish that's what Beyblade was called all this time. I think they'd still be around.
Right. Yeah. But it's I've just been looking at the design of that Keyblade, and it's very like half angelic and half demonic, much like the Master of Masters sigil. And like we don't even know what this Keyblade is. Like nobody uses it. Like could that be the true Keyblade? Like the Keyblade of true darkness and true light? And it's like, well, we know that Riku is Sora's quote-unquote Dream Eater, right? And what is the reaction command in Dream Drop Distance when we use it? What is it called? It's called Reality Shift. And it's like, oh, okay, that's odd. And then Sora just bursts through in this weird door that we have no idea what it is in the realm of darkness. And it's like, what's going on between these two kids? Like, you know, like, is there some sort of higher form of destiny going on with the Destiny trio? And was Xehanort, like this scapegoat, kind of indoctrinated into believing that he is special. So he internalized that affirmation and became this monster, this tyrant, and decided, hey, I'm gonna fight fire with fire. Oh, you think you have darkness? I'm gonna be darkness manifest. I'm gonna be who you hate most because it's the greater good. I need to do this to make a pure and blank world, like a blank slate. So it's like, okay, well, if Sora has the Kingdom Key instead of Riku, could it be that Sora is just a butterfly effect because of Luxu and Brain's deal all the way back in the day?
Yes.
That if the Book of Prophecies played out just as the Master of Masters intended, then it should have been Riku versus Xehanort and not Sora versus Xehanort. I think Sora is a wrench in the Master's plan. Like, who is this kid? This isn't Riku. Like, what is going on? Like, Riku, again, harboring that darkness, being able to control it, being so willfully strong and powerful. And I think Riku is currently in the top contenders for one of the most powerful characters in the entire series, if not has the potential to be, just because of his mastery over darkness. And I think that the foretellers are going to have a rough time with him. They're going to have a rough time.
They're not going to like him.
Yeah. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. So yeah, definitely like Sora could be this butterfly effect, this unintended result of Luxu and Brain's deal to like slowly like kind of poke holes in the book itself and be like, hey, let's just change this slightly. Let's just change this slightly. Oh, this person never gets born, therefore this doesn't happen here. Blah blah blah. Oh look, who is Sora? This isn't like this is supposed to be Riku. This is supposed like Riku is supposed to be the Kingdom Key hero. Like that could possibly be a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder what it all means at the end of the day, right? Like, does it mean that the Keyblade actually gravitates towards merit? And is that how destiny is dictated? Or is destiny a consequence of bloodlines? And Sora getting the Keyblade, if we were to go with the dull, ordinary boy, and I do hope it stays that way, it would argue that Child of Destiny is dictated by merit. And that, maybe Riku was a descendant of the right bloodline and he's born in the right place at the right time. But if he chooses the wrong path, the Keyblade itself will choose another path itself. So it's like, okay, if Riku can deviate, then by default, the Kingdom Key can deviate as well. And as we're kind of getting on, is Riku's deviation a consequence of some of the things we've seen played out and talked about today? How it all plays out is like, because, it's easy to be like, okay, that would make Sora the virus, and him changing fate and everything. But I think the Master has adjusted his plans to the point he's like, oh, I could use this Sora guy. I don't think he sees Sora really as a threat. He sees him as useful. Like, oh, look at this guy traversing reality, abusing the taboos in nature. Like, I think he finds him useful. Like, maybe I can use this guy. But as for like the greater destiny, I think this may be where Seven Crowns comes in. I think if the Keyblade can have its chosen, I think Kingdom Hearts itself can have its chosen. And I wonder, just like the foretellers had roles to play, if that's what the Seven Crowns thing is too. And if those roles are just dictated, again, not by bloodline, but based on your actions. That Sora's qualified for it, Riku, Kairi, Yozora being true king, maybe Nameless Star, that gives us 5 of 7. The other two, who knows right now? That said, it's like, I can see the temptation of making Sora something special. Like, I don't know, have you seen Naruto? Are you familiar with Naruto?
I actually speak about that briefly in a script that I'm writing for Luxu, but yes, I am very aware of Naruto.
Let me guess, you liking Luxu and Orochimaru? Just a guess.
No, Luxu and Obito actually.
Okay.
And like Black Zetsu and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I've seen a criticism of Naruto without getting too far into it that, originally you had this parallel of Naruto and Sasuke where you had like born talent, natural talent versus hard work, like a klutz who puts in the work versus like gifted talent. And that by the time you get to the end of it, they made Naruto into someone who like, oh, he was really destined for this all along. He's not like this.
Yeah.
He's not like this dull orphan with no natural talent. He had some good bloodlines in him, to put it lightly.
Yeah. Send you DNA, man. Send you DNA. That's what I'm gonna say.
I can see the temptation of doing something like that with Sora, but I really hope they don't, because then I think it makes him usurping the Keyblade from Riku way more interesting. Makes it way more interesting. If Sora is like a descendant of the Master, it's like, okay, that's how we got the Keyblade. Because I remember a lot of people thought that because he had Ventus in his heart, that's why he got the Keyblade. But much like the Freya thing, Nomura came out straight and was like, no, that's not it. There's a different reason. And we don't know the reason. We don't know the reason yet. And I have to believe it has something to do with the nature of what you are saying. But that it's something Sora qualified for on his actions, not like... Because maybe that's what they got wrong with Xehanort. Like, oh, he's from the right bloodline. It's going to work out.
Yeah. The singularity is so important, right? The survivor. But like, I definitely think that like, if anybody's wondering, like, by that cutscene, you know, with Kid Sora and Kid Riku in the cave, Riku has already met Terra by that point. And the reason why I say that is because they mention this new girl, Kairi, appearing out of nowhere and being at the mayor's house. So Kairi's obviously being raised by the mayor or something to that standard. So that's already like after birth by sleep. So Riku is already entitled to a Keyblade by that point. So the fact that they use that cutscene as the prerequisite for the Missing Link trailer is so telling to me. And it's like, maybe even though he has that ability now to wield the Keyblade, maybe we are going to see him actually find the Kingdom Key, or like see the Kingdom Key find its way to him. Maybe like a young Riku dive to the heart or something like that. And it's always eluded me that like Kingdom Key kind of has a mind of its own, really. Like it seems that way. Like it's a very sentient Keyblade. And it's called the Kingdom Key, for crying out loud. Like it's Kingdom Key, Kingdom Hearts. It's very, very important. And the Keyblade has 2 Kingdom Keys, you know, as its hilt. And it's like, come on. It's like, it's so... There's obviously this like cosmic importance of this Kingdom Hearts monarchy, this lineage of the true king, you know, Princess of Heart, all this kind of stuff. It's like, there's something going on here. And I think that, you know, the crown being synonymous with Sora's character throughout the entire series, and him sitting on a throne in almost every, like, you know,
and Kairi
every time we see him
now.
sitting down, right?
Now we got Kairi on a throne now.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is why I think that she's like a descendant of the Master Master. Anyway.
So hear me out of this. You bring up the Kingdom Key.
Sure.
What if the Kingdom Key is to the Master and his time what the Starlight Keyblade was to Union Cross in that time? What if Kingdom Key was like the original Starlight Keyblade, just from that forgotten time from where the Master is from? And maybe, because we've never seen the Master actually wield a Keyblade. Now imagine Sora meets the Master, and the Master's like, oh, you got one too? Fa-ching! And it's like, he's got another Kingdom Key. And you would just be like, what? What?
I've thought about that, because I can't remember who I was talking to, but it's interesting, like, Luxu is already a Keyblade Master, right? Mm-hmm. So before Master gives him the no-name, shouldn't he have like Starlight or something? So it's like, okay, well, Ephema gets bequeathed to Master's Defender, but he already wields a Starlight, so people can wield 2 different Keyblades. Mm-hmm. So it's weird to me that, like, you know, damn, I forgot what I was...
Kingdom Key. You can wield multiple Keyblades. You can have Starlight Masters.
Right. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Gotcha. I got
Thank you. Lovely. Awesome, man. You got my back.
I'm listening. Look, I've been 216 episodes. Yeah, I better know how to listen to people.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, that Million Dreams Award is coming in clutch, I must say. But yeah, so in Dark Road, when the Master meets Xehanort, watching that extended cutscene, because like we see that main scene in Remind, but we get that extended version, and it's so interesting to me that that duality between chaos and order. And whenever Xehanort kind of prods him and questions him, like obviously in that scene he takes Xehanort's Keyblade. Just we've never seen a character really do that before, unless it's like Sora giving Jack Sparrow his king. You know, like we've never seen that happen like that before. So it really goes to show how omnipotent the Master of Masters really is. But every single time he is kind of questioned or prodded, it's like Xehanort says, "So what are you, like a Keyblade Master or a Keyblade Wielder?" And he's like, "More or less." And he says that multiple times in the cutscene, like more or less, like like kind of, like really, which leads me to believe that the Master of Masters is an insane coward and he's borrowed his power from somewhere else. And I think that
everything Xehanort said.
First and foremost, an alchemist. He is a scholar. He's a genius. But in terms of fighting, I'm not so sure. And I mean, we'll see that he's obviously very powerful and knowledgeable, but I think maybe that power is stolen or borrowed from somewhere, much like the gazing eye and it being in multiple Keyblades and saying, yeah, my eye to be exact. It's like that whole pride thing coming back, and like him just having this brittle ego, like I am the best, I am, you know, the
Way
master.
To steal
his name is the Master of Masters.
Off.
yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so it's like he mentions that, and he doesn't even know what the Mark of Mastery is. He has no idea what it is.
He has no respect for it either.
No idea. Yeah,
You're gonna let
he's like, okay, yeah, he has no idea. Like this current like Gen Z of Keyblade wielders, he doesn't care about that. He really doesn't, right? So like something like he is from either the very, very distant past or a very, very distant future. Like he's just not of this realm or time. And, you know, darkness says that to him as well. Like, you're just going to come to this world just to end it. And it's like, so he can just hop worlds. He can just do things, you know? And I think that whole like imagination aspect and him being this genius, this mastermind is going to come into play. For sure. So if what you said with the Kingdom Key comes into play, and it being like, you know, the original, like the Keyblade, right? The Keyblade, that would be interesting. And I always think back every now and again to the first bit of promotional media that we got for Kingdom Hearts 3, and it's Sora picking up Master's Defender. And I'm like, oh boy, is he an Ephema descendant? Is that why Ephema was able to? I'm like, oh no, like, it's a bit much. So I really want Sora, as you said, to get where he is based on merit alone and just being in the right place at the right time, being the right person, caring for the right people, and just being like a happy accident, so to speak. Like, yeah, sure, like he's very important and special and powerful now, but he worked his ass off to get there. He really did. Like, he was so jealous of Riku. He was just the normal kid. He just wanted to leave the islands.
Jealous of Riku, like, wants to impress Kairi. You know,
yeah.
he's in some of the Ultimania, they mentioned he's kind of like an outcast on the island, in a way. But
interesting.
Yeah, I would. That's the direction I hope they take him in. We got a couple super chats here. Noct Flugal with $5 says, in the 7 Remake Ultimania, there's a picture of Nomura wearing a black hoodie that's got a picture of a cat's head that has a cross on its forehead. This, Nomura, whatever you're smoking,
are you kidding me?
Whatever you're smoking, please send it to me in the mail. Third Eye says, please look at Simonian Gnosticism. You'll make a fire video on this. Black Box holds the god Sophia. Master of Masters is Yaldabaoth, her son, the fake god, without knowledge, who trapped her after creating his own reality. Okay. Let me take a little note of that, I guess. That sounds a little...
nice.
Sounds a little nuts. Okay. Put my little notes here. Simonian Gnosticism. You know what I have been looking at? I don't know how familiar you are with FF7, but I've been looking at the Tree of Life, and this is seemingly, the more I look into it, anyway, I'll save that for an FF7 podcast. Okay, Samoan Gnosticism. That catches us up with super chats. That said, we are at 2 hours and 20 minutes. So, at this point, I guess I'll ask you, Is there anything you wanted to discuss today that we didn't get a chance to touch on yet?
Sure, we can do like a lightning round thing. Ramus. Ramus is people have suggested that he might be what's the word I'm looking for? Ancestor. There we go. See, man, Million Dreams Award. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so he's the ancestor of Lee or someone, and it's like, okay, maybe. And if Bloodlines are going to play a part in this, that's cool. And I don't have any qualms about that. I don't really mind. Like Lee, he's a fan favorite, and they want him to be a Keyblade wielder, and they want him to be important, and that's fine. Like there are plenty more Keyblades to go around, I guess. But one thing that I see a lot of people missing is that he wasn't designed by Nomura. He was designed by Yamashita, who also designed Freya. But in that interview, they, if you guys want to see it, it's called the Focus Group event in early December. You can find it on like KH13 or something. But they go out of their way to say like he was designed to be like a big brother figure. And if you guys don't know, Ramus as a character in mythology has a brother called Romulus. And so maybe we're going to see a Romulus somewhere in Missing Link, and that happens.
That's the name of the Dark Chirithy.
Their clash leads. Oh, but like I was. It's just complete like dumpster fire theory or speculation. But wouldn't it be so funny if Romulus, if he does exist, has blue hair? So like Lee and Isa are like distant relatives. That would be so funny, right?
I could go for that.
Yeah.
I could go for that.
I guess like
someone in the chat has a question.
I think
for
with
you.
Missing Link. Sure, yeah.
Grunty Turfu says, Sonny, what is the thing or
hey.
aspect about the future of the Kingdom Hearts series that you are anticipating the most?
What a loaded question. Wow. I mean, like
hard to choose just one, right?
Right. I guess it's more so being apprehensive of how they could screw things up. And for me, I've been pretty vocal about this, right? The Foretellers are being built up as the new main faction, like the new main threat, right?
New organization.
But for me, right? Yes, well, exactly. So it's easy to imply a direct correlation between the Foretellers and the Organization 13. And we were around, like many of us, like you, me, the chat, we were around in the 2000s. We know that everyone had their favorite organization character, everyone had their favorite cosplay, everyone had, what would my name be with an X in it? Like, what would my nobody be like? And to me, the Organization 13 was the backbone of the entire community for a long while, and the Foretellers just don't have that same weight. And I think what I'm worried about with the Foretellers is if they're gonna be this cut and dry, incredibly naive and impressionable people that are just like believing in the Master of Masters cult and being like, light is good, darkness is bad. Don't you dare say anything about my master. You are in my way. And it's like, that would be so boring. What I want to know is the juiciness, because like Gula has the lost page. He knows about the traitor. Maybe he has a little bit of snide, interaction with Zigbar, or like what's Ava doing, and there's got to be a little bit of contention between Ira and Aced, and it's like I want to see that. I want to see darkness come out of these people and truly hone into that ultimate message that, hey, light ain't good all the time. Light is not good all the time. The tyranny of light is ever present right now, and if we're going to let the Master of Masters get away with it, darkness is within every heart. To have no darkness is to be completely devoid of life.
Blind.
Yeah. So that to me, like, I want them to get the Foretellers right. I want to be interested. I want to see those boss battles. I want to see those, them interacting with Riku, knowing that he can harbor darkness, and being like, what are you? You aren't light. You spit on the light, and stuff like that. Like, I really want that character interaction to go forth. And if anybody's wondering, I don't think the Master of Masters is going to be the final boss of Kingdom Hearts 4. I think it's Luxu. I think Luxu is definitely worthy of final boss status. Yeah, that's my thoughts about like the future of like what I want in the series. I just want good, hearty character interactions that really like make us think and bring the entire tyranny of light on full display, like really.
I would hope so, because I think it would create a good juxtaposition between the two sagas, right? Dark Seeker Saga is number 1, and then number 2 can be the tyranny of light, basically showing you that, again, like, because something I've been working on, just a quick video on this, but like something I think that gets overlooked a lot is, I remember being a kid, right? You play Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah.
As far as Kingdom Hearts 1 is concerned, light, good, dark, bad. Just because we have very limited context, very limited backstory. You've got this villain, Seeker of Darkness, and you've got your good guys who believe in Kingdom Hearts as light, right? Light, good, dark, bad. You get the chain of memories. You get a little bit away from that and it has more to do with memory. But then you get to the Kingdom Hearts 2, and you get to the end of Kingdom Hearts 2 where they accept light and dark are a balance. Sora, Riku, Mickey, they all kind of accept like, hey, it's not as simple as light, good, dark, bad. We accept that there's a balance. And then what happens? Birth by Sleep comes out, and you find out that the main villain and the heroes agree with each other. Xehanort comes out and says, light and darkness are a balance. Ericus is like, darkness, bad, light, good. And then you're in this situation where you're like, wait a minute. The main villain agrees with us? And I remember, this was, 14 years ago. I remember being taken aback by that. Like, wait, where can this be going? And then you find out, essentially what they're showing you there is you can have the same belief, but the way you go about manifesting that belief can be good or evil. It's not about light or dark. It's about how you're wielding them. And that's what the Dark Seeker Saga showed us. If that doesn't get played up in the next saga, it doesn't feel like the sagas are connected. You can't just have the same characters. It's like, okay, we've established a value system of light and darkness are a balance. Now that value system needs to be challenged in the next saga. So that's one of the reasons why I'm maybe not so worried, because I'm like, they don't really have a choice. They need an absolutist. Yeah. If the guy who believed in balance but just had very terrible means of achieving that balance was the first villain, then the next villain can't also believe in the balance and have bad means. It's like, no, they're going to have a very different idea. And the master has shown that. The foretellers have shown that. I often think, though, that the master might want to do away with light and darkness completely. Another conversation for another day. But those are just my thoughts. We have another question for both of us from Ryan Suke asking, I have something to ask you both. Do you think Final Fantasy will have more relevance in Kingdom Hearts 4? I'm going to go out on a limb and say no. I'm going to say no. I think it's definitely, I think it's possible. But I think, if I'm being honest, it's not worth getting your hopes up. You want more Final Fantasy, 16 mainline games waiting for you. And I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. I knew about Final Fantasy before Kingdom Hearts. But I think you're setting yourself up for disappointment if you go into Kingdom Hearts 4 hoping for Sephiroth, hoping for Cloud, hoping for Tifa. Like, I think you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Do I think it's possible? Right. Absolutely. They have with Quadratum and Unreality, they have so many cool ways to do this. But at the end of the day, every cutscene you see costs Square Enix millions of dollars. Every single one. It's not as simple as like Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts 2, where you had these like very like cell-shaded, blocky characters. Like now you're funding 10 hours of Pixar-level animation with a Kingdom Hearts game now. Like that's where we're at. And that's not cheap. So I can't imagine they're going to want to put any focus on Final Fantasy here. You might get a few nods, but I think because video games are becoming such an expensive thing to create, Nomura is going to want to spend every last dollar on the main cast. That's my take. Right. How do you feel?
I don't think I could disagree more. I'm going to be honest with you, you know?
I like that.
And I humbly respect your take, and I do think that going into it expecting like that big Sephiroth boss fight you were waiting for, sure, you might be disappointed, but for me, I think anyone that knows about Fabula Nova Crystallis can see the direct correlation into this new saga and Type 0 connections between characters from Type 0 and the Master of Masters and the Foretellers. It's like it is insane. And it's not just like, oh yeah, they're kind of similar. It's like, look, the window in the Chancellor's office in Type 0 is the exact same as the clock tower in Daybreak Town, and that's not a coincidence. They had to remodel it from scratch, and it's like you have this whole crystal stasis thing going on with Sora, and it's like, Yozora being that mirrored image of Noctis in the car, and it's just like,
but don't you think
something's
that's the
going on
substitute?
here.
That's my thing. I think Fabula Nova Crystallis
yeah.
will certainly be there, but I think Verum Rex is the substitute.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's like that's the Final Fantasy influence now.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that the Master of Masters is someone from Type 0. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, like, the Master of Masters is, like, an original character. He may be connected to people, but I think that he is an original character ultimately. But I do think that there will be this kind of convergence between, like, the lore of Kingdom Hearts and possibly Fabula Nova Crystallis. And I think that if we're going into this new realm where it's heavily based on the real world and just Japan and Tokyo and Shibuya, which implies that we are going to be like going to other places like that as well, it's like, okay, well, what I can't imagine a better canvas to expand upon like Final Fantasy things or like Square Enix IPs. Like, maybe we're going to get like a Chrono Trigger world. I'm not saying we will, but I think that would be great. Like, maybe we're going to see like Sion Bazard from the Bouncer like walking across the street and looking like Sora, and like them having an interaction. It's like,
I think that's the Verum Rex game they're going to make.
Right. Well, Kingdom Hearts Verum Rex VR, virtual reality, But like, yeah, there's that. But like, with the way the new saga is being presented to us now, it's like they've already dived into a lot of classic Disney IPs, and they can't really just do like, I really hope they're not going to do like the live action route where we're just going to see like Beyonce as Nala or something. It's like, I don't want that to happen. No. Right, exactly. Like, I would absolutely be open to Angelina Jolie as Maleficent. That's fun. But like,
rock and roll, baby.
Like, they have a few Pixar worlds up their sleeve, but do they have enough to, quantify an entire new saga with multiple games and spin-offs and stuff? And I still believe that we're going to get like a Sora game, a Riku game, a Kairi game,
I think
a Twilight trio game.
I think that's the final game. That's my opinion.
Right, yeah. And for me, it's like Sora being able to easily go back to reality is just that's far off course. That's nowhere to be seen in the near future. So I think that with Final Fantasy and Fabula Nova Crystallis, there's too much of an overlap in the lore, in the blatant reference of assets and cutscenes and stuff like that, and crystal stasis and stuff. It's too much to be a coincidence. There
it
are
was
a few
the plan.
But
like, if you go back to those early interviews with Nomura when he was making Versus 13, he makes it pretty clear these two worlds were always meant to interact, which is why they gave him not a mainline title, because they don't want, and I can understand why, they don't want like a mainline title to be canonical with Kingdom Hearts. Like, you have your Tifas and your Squalls and your Yufis, but it's a different version than mainline FF7, mainline FF8. So he had this basically a Final Fantasy spin-off, Versus 13. And his plan was always to connect this to Kingdom Hearts. That's why Noctis, he literally says, Noctis head to toe was made as a mirror image of Sora. Head to toe. Designed entirely with Sora in mind, named entirely with Sora in mind. And if you look at the Kingdom Hearts 3 sort of, how would you say, bonus content, it mirrors, you actually might have brought this up in your video, but it mirrors the FF15 crew, right? So you have the photograph like Prompto in Kingdom Hearts 3. You have the cooking like Ignis in Kingdom Hearts 3. I can't remember exactly what Gladio was. He had his own thing too, but I forgot it. But anyway, so, you see the shades of it. Where was I going with this? Anyway, Nomura stated this was always his plan, and that he always saw Noctis and Sora as his two children. Like he contextualizes that way. Like, these are my two kids, and his plan was for them to meet one day. That day has now come. That said, I'm 100% with you that like the Final Fantasy lore is becoming Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts is now, I think instead of relying on characters to give you that Final Fantasy feeling, you're not going to be able to deny it when you look around and, like you said, you see the overlap with Type 0. You see the Fabula Nova Crystallis. You see the billboards in Quadratum constantly referencing Versus 13 and stuff. Fabula Books.
Yeah, Fabula Books.
Like a bookstore. So it's like, it's undeniable in that sense. What I hope can happen from here on out is that Nomura really can just do his thing with this stuff. Because I think sometimes people put too much on Disney. They act like Disney has Nomura in a stranglehold. But it's like, I don't think you get Xemnas choke slamming Mickey against the wall without Disney being a little hands off.
It's not as egregious as people think. It's like, Disney is kind of like it's like the iron hand, so to speak, in a lot of IPs. But I think that like they have such a special, like Square Enix and Disney Interactive have such a special relationship that I think that like people assume that like, you know, Frozen was only in Kingdom Hearts 3 by obligation. It's like, no, that's not true. It's like Nomura loves Disney. He loves these films. And I assume that when he watches them, he's like, what if Sora were to do that and like do this thing? It's like, that's what ultimately Kingdom Hearts is about. It's Sora experiencing these magical movies, you know, with us. And it's like, that to me is what Kingdom Hearts is always going to be, you know. And I'm not saying that like we're going to get like this overlap between like Square Enix being like the main source of lore for all of Kingdom Hearts. Like, you know, Kingdom Hearts is nothing but like a Final Fantasy spin-off. That's not what I'm saying. But like I do think that like we're going to get a little bit more involvement of that kind of saga. And like absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But we're over the 2.5 hour mark. Had a couple super chats come in from Will and Art of Me. Thank you for that. Look, we could keep going. I know you and I could keep this going, but I do think we gotta wrap it up here. Sonny, thanks for coming on. You
Man.
I say it over and over. You're probably sick of hearing me say it. I think you're one of the best minds in the whole Kingdom Hearts community. I think anyone who isn't, if you're tuning into the stream and you're not following Sonny, there's not a whole lot of logic there. You like Kingdom Hearts content. You like big brain Kingdom Hearts content. It's right there. It's right there. I tagged him in the title. You can go very easily follow him. But Sonny, what are you cooking up? What can people expect to see from you in the great year of 2024, which is the peak of human recorded history? What do you have planned?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be one of those podcasts where I'm going to log off and like, before I go to sleep, I'm going to be like, I should have said this. Yeah. Oh no. Like, it's just like naturally, that's just how it goes. But yeah, I've got into streaming recently and a lot of people seem to like that. I've just beat my Kingdom Hearts 1 Riku playthrough. That was fun. I want to dive into Wind Waker HD as my next game to stream, and I really like that game.
I was going to ask you if you've ever played it.
Yeah, I love Zelda. I love Zelda so much. Almost as much as Kingdom Hearts. Like, in a different reality, I'd be a Zelda theorist or a Silent Hill theorist or something like that. But like I want to stream that just on my free time. But in terms of big juicy stuff, unfortunately, I think you guys are late if you didn't sign up for March Caprice. That was going on for a while, but that's like a great community ran experience by Cheney and a bunch of other people.
They'll be on the podcast in 2
March
weeks.
Caprice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm going to do a video for that about Namine. It's going to be a Namine-centric video. It's going to be about like how imperative she is and her connection to memories, maybe Ven as well, and how that can play a role in the new saga, but also how like a lot of female characters have been represented in in shonen storytelling, especially in Kingdom Hearts with Kairi, and people aren't happy about that. And I want to really just reinforce love for Namine, and I want to, to be sappy. I want to thank Namine, like that's kind of my main heart for that video. And then after that, like, it's just, man, I want to do a Luxu video. I'm going to do a Yozora video about discussing the soul in Kingdom Hearts. Like, we have the heart, the body, the mind, and I think the soul, the whole thing with Kingdom Hearts 4 saying, the heart resides within the soul, which in turn is guided by fate to its rightful place. And I want to dive into that. It's going to be a really fun video, like my first one, like my Master of Masters one. But I am cooking with Blender and doing all sorts of 3D asset stuff, and I'm really, honestly, super stoked about my progress for that. But it wouldn't be possible, and I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for people like Landy and like, listening to the Spike Getty Bros, while I'm editing or tinkering with stuff, or eagerly anticipating a new Secret Reports Mel video, and they're coming out with a podcast later this month as well, I believe on the 22nd. And just people like this in the community, Bio, Damo, like the list goes on, and they are so regular Pat. The list goes on. And I mean, yeah. We can just talk about that for like half an hour, but like, no, it's so, I am so humbled by the presence of the community at all times, and people like you and people in the chat are so welcoming, so open-minded, and so willing to discuss most of the time. Just everything, right? It's just like, you guys make this worth it, and Landy can attest to that for sure. And thank you so much for sticking by, and here's to the future. Here's to the future.
Here's to the future. I am certain we'll get Missing Link this year. I'm certain we'll hear something about Kingdom Hearts 4, so it'll be a good year. Sonny, you're welcome in here whenever you want. Talk about whatever you want. You want to do a Zelda episode, you give me a call. Actually, have you played Tears of the Kingdom?
Yes.
Okay. We'll talk. Cool. All right, well, look, we're going to wrap it up here, everybody. If you're hanging out on Twitch, there it is. Is that the Switch Lite? Look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you. Oh, the Comedy Pickaxe. Wow, what a name. Thanks for the follow on Twitch. If you're hanging out on Twitch, let's raid Princess Kyora. She's playing Kingdom Hearts 2, so that's very fitting. We're going to wrap it up here. Sonny, thank you very much for coming in. Chat, as Sonny said, you are the ones who make it worth it. We couldn't do it without you. We love you. Keep the love for Kingdom Hearts going. We'll be here to spit out our nonsense. Thanks for chilling. We'll see you on the next one. Good night, everybody.